welcome everybody to a special extra edition of the Daily Gun Show. We're doing it in the AM, so that's early watch. Oops. Calling it early watch because that's their show. So running it for Tony and Jimmy, and give a nice strike up break. I don't know if he's out doing stuff or what, but I think we maybe beat him. I think it's a little bit earlier than he normally jumps in.
Good morning, people. You're cutting out on me. I didn't hear, but just a little bit of what you said.
Oh, I got my bandwidth cut. It might just be my internet. Okay, anyway.
Me.
Is it still breaking up?
No, not right now.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure if it's on my end or your end, so anyhow, it doesn't matter. This is the beginning of early watch this morning, jumping in with Tony from Illinois. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So as explaining is that Tony and Jimmy do the early watch show in the mornings over here on Gun Channels, I guess on YouTube. And Night Strike's been helping him out while Jimmy's dealing with internet issues. And I figured I'd jump in since I didn't see anything going yet. And I've got some tasks to do here on the computer. So always fun to chat with Tony. We'll do that. Anybody who's out there watching, of course, we're over on the Gun Channels. And if you want a link, just ask us over on the Gun Channels. We'll be watching the comments over there and on YouTube. I think Tony's drinking some coffee. I don't know what you do during the early watch. Are you like watching the news, reading the newspaper, or just hanging out watching the computer normally?
I have the news on, but I have the volume muted. But, you know, like when something major happens, it comes across as a freaking breaking news bulletin, so I get it. But mostly I just sit here and drink coffee.
Kind of like having a news ticker. That way you're aware if something comes along, but you don't have to pay attention to every single thing.
Right, yeah. Like this crap went down in Parkland, man. I was the first one on that because I was sitting here watching it on TV, you know, when it came up. So
I wonder if
why I do it.
Has anybody ever done a gun news ticker that was actually distributable, like a feed, instead of just like on their own website or on their own screen if they're doing something? Maybe have.
I have no idea.
I don't think I've seen anything like that. It'd be kind of neat though. You could have like a website that people go to and have a little bit of a filter or something so that you don't get the same message 100 times, and then distribute that out in a feed so that people, if they wanted to, could put it on their stuff. It's interesting. I would think with the way Twitter works, how it's such short little bursts of message, and it's predominantly going from big volume, like whatever, big influence voices out to lots of ears, as opposed to something like this where there's 10 voices going out to hundreds of ears. You know, it's more like one voice going out to thousands of ears, right? A little bit different dynamic. You would think for that, a ticker would almost work, right? It's a little short message, just has to be said. There doesn't need to be any reaction.
I don't know, that might be an idea to broach Jimmy on the whole early watch nation thing too.
Oh yeah, huh? Every morning you guys jump in and add whatever needs to be added or updated, and then the ticker just reflects that.
Right, yeah. As far as gun news goes, we have had a touch of good gun news in Illinois. That dealer licensing bill is dead for now. They did not get enough to override the governor's veto, so hopefully we don't have to hear about that until next year.
All right, catch me up on that one. I don't think I know about that one as much.
It was a bill to require all gun shops in Illinois to have a special Illinois license, except for places like Walmart, Bass Pro, because they're not.
This was the law that Rock River and Springfield brought.
Yeah, we're still dealing with that shit.
Well, that's the way it works, though. None of these things are super fast. So that's good to hear that two things, that the governor vetoed it, and then you just said that they can't override the veto, which is good. But and then the other is that hang on, what the hell was I going to say? That there's still, what am I trying to say? Like solidity in that position, in the Pro 2A position, even though it's way off the radar. You know, that's the kind of thing where if the governor did it, he could probably get a political slide, because so long ago all the like anger and all the rage is cooled off and gone for the most part. People barely remember the incident, honestly. And you know, he could probably have voted either way on that. And if he would have, you know, he would have just gotten a black eye from gun owners. I doubt he would have been like, you know, the new Bloomberg or anything. So that's awesome that he kept his resolve and stayed on our side, which is the right side. That's actually pretty good, especially for an Illinois. Your governors are sometimes not so good, no?
He is Republican, so you know he is fairly pro-gun. Although he was behind the bump stock ban. I wrote him a letter expressing my displeasure with it, even though I could fucking care less about bump stock. I don't think that it would make any difference, but hey, I wrote the letter anyway. But he has been true to his word about being pro-Second Amendment.
Well, writing in like that, I insist that that is the kind of stuff that, you know, the talliers, the people that he pays to, they don't read every email, but they read what emails are about, right? That's how they get a pulse on what people want out there. And you know, I think that effort putting an email in there, that little tick mark, it literally, if we didn't have any of those tick marks, there wouldn't even be a decision, right? They would be voting the other way just out of the political win, no matter what their position is, you know, what they actually think. If the other side was the only voice, then they'd have to vote the other side, because that would be what their constituents are telling them. It would be like their job. So I think it's like our job. We got to do that stuff, even if it seems like a waste.
Oh yeah, I never miss an opportunity to write these bastards. Even though I'm writing Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth a lot for no fucking good reason except for the numbers. Because I know they're not going to change their freaking position. But
They're not going to change the position, but again, their job is to, you know, do what the people want. If they like yellow and the country's divided between whatever, blue and green or something, and you know, they gotta go with what their representatives want. So even if they like yellow, they're still voting blue or green when they're asked to. So I figure it's the same way with gun laws, right? I don't care what their position is on gun laws, honestly, as long as they do what they're told, then you can hate guns all you want. But when your constituents tell you vote pro-gun, you vote pro-gun. You might bitch and moan and look funny and hold your breath while you're doing it, but I don't care. Do it and then shut up and sit down. And if you make too much of a fuss, you're not getting voted back in by us.
I will give Durbin credit. He has never, that I remember, not replied.
But I've heard from listening to the show some of the replies. I wouldn't go around saying they're satisfactory or like, you know, they're good. Some of those replies are like kind of the F you, or more like the I didn't totally read your email, but here's a boilerplate.
Yeah, exactly.
Like yours was about guns, so here's a reply to bump stocks.
Basically, his stock and quote is Heller said that we could do some restriction on guns, so that's what we're doing. This is my big freaking bitch with Scalia. God damn it, he should have never wrote that.
talking about his, what do you call, like at the end, like his interpretation of it all?
Right. In the ruling where he said that the Second Amendment, there was room for some restriction on it. And the Second Amendment does not say that. I wish to Christ he'd have ended it without that sentence. It would have made our life a lot easier.
Is he trying to say like the Constitution says you can own whatever you want, but then the state can say where you can walk around with it? Like you can own it, fine, but where it's appropriate to interact with other people in the immediate neighborhood can be determined by your locality.
The way Scalia's interpretation was is that you could own a gun, but not any gun. You know, there's room for restriction on the Second Amendment.
Oh yeah, that I have a real issue with for sure.
Me too. Because that's not what the freaking thing says. I need to get back in and read the Constitution more thoroughly than I have been for a while. And see if there's provisions laid out in the text of the Constitution before the amendment saying that.
Well, I know that you guys, I don't listen to the show every day. I listen when I can, and I usually get up too late, and I don't go back and listen to live shows. Just I don't do it. I always have new live shows to listen to, I guess. So I don't listen to everything you guys do or anything, but when I'm around, I listen. So I get the idea that you have segments and shit, but I don't know if you guys are so full that you don't need new segments. But would a segment, or would it work to have a segment type of thing for a while? I guess a series where you just chop a piece off the Constitution and read it, and then BS about it a little bit, and then like one of those, you know, every day a little piece.
That would be good. We're going through the state's constitutions, or at least the Second Amendment.
Oh, right on. That's actually just as good or better, honestly, because then you get 50 different kind of points of view on it or perspectives on it.
Yeah, Illinois has a pretty straightforward Second Amendment, although it's not the second here, it's the sixth, I think. But basically, it says subject to police powers, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
You know, I got all those over on everysecondmatters.us if it's still up. Oh, yeah, it is.
I've got them all right here on my computer, along with the whole statutes of Illinois gun laws and the U.S. Constitution. I mean, I always said I never did shit for the show as far as prep, but that's not true. I mean, I did gather data and shit like that for stuff I wanted to do.
That's the thing. Sometimes when you're working on a show like this and it's a project that you're interested in or whatever, it's not like work. So if you're doing something, farting around at night or during a chat or something, you don't even realize, oh yeah, I guess I am doing show prep.
My biggest problem with it is I don't like to, like narrate or read aloud here. So that's mostly what I did was I would find stuff for Jimmy to read, and then when he started stumbling, I would take over a little bit for him, let him have a chance to get back, get something drink dries or get his mouth wet again or something.
Yeah, that's for sure. What the hell did I do recently where I was pretty much by myself in there, and it's horrible because you feel like you need to talk the whole damn time, and you kind of do. It's kind of rude to just sit there with dead air. But
right.
I'm gonna get this. But yeah, and then like what I'm doing is I'm sitting here working on shit. So you have to concentrate for a minute and then your conversation stops. So yeah, it's nice to have a couple of people in the room.
Yeah, we would lay the thing out to do the news, and he and I would do our back and forth stuff with the news.
Uh-huh.
Then
it just happens.
Right.
Like it gets built that way, yeah.
I don't generally keep up with the news that he's wanting to do every morning, so my reactions are pretty guttural. and exaggerate for the show. Yes, I did do that, but I didn't want to know the news in advance that he wanted to read, so I could react naturally.
Oh yeah. Well, that makes a good point, because otherwise it's like a lot different. It's definitely more like a reading or something, or some kind of a rehearsed thing if everyone is aware of what's about to happen.
Yeah, it just didn't work with shit for me to try to go over something that I already knew.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And that's what happens sometimes. Like yesterday, we were doing Matt's chat, and they were all like nerding out about that movie that came out, the superhero movie. And I mean, for good reason. It's a 2.5 hour long movie. I don't know if you like that kind of stuff, but holy crap, that was a edge of your seat. It was definitely a fun experience just to see the adventure for 2.5 hours with so many of they brought like all the superheroes and put them in one movie. So everybody wanted to talk about it. They got there early, maybe half an hour early, and it was like, we already talked about all this shit for half an hour before we went live.
Right.
So it was a little weird talking about it all again. And I mean, to some extent, it gives you that rehearsal, right? It gives you a chance to go, oh, okay, you know what? Last time I talked about this and it dropped and nobody understood it. So I'm going to rephrase it or leave it out. Or maybe I am going to say that other thing, so it gives you a little bit of way to sharpen it. But I don't think the sharp is worth what you're talking about. Like you lose the real life of it. Like what do you call it? The reactions, like you're saying.
Well, I always figured that from what I gathered, people liked the interplay between me and Jimmy. And, the only way to keep that honest is to keep doing what I was doing. But, there's stuff we discussed off air. Usually we'd start the show and not go live for 15 minutes or so while we discussed what we were going to do that day. And that's about the extent of show prep I did. And then after we did the news, then it was a little different. We would open the show and let people come in. And just, we had done this way all along. But that's just, I don't know. I like the spontaneity. And, then there's stuff that I really wanted to discuss that he didn't want to, like Tulsa. There's stuff that he didn't want to discuss, but we had to because it's in the news, like when these mass murder events happen.
Yeah, and that's one of those I can hear. And you said that Jimmy would not want to, you're saying?
Right, yeah.
Not necessarily a topic, but when you're trying, then censoring if you don't talk about shit or what's relevant, right? Or maybe not censoring, but you're basically not giving time to what people are interested in at the moment. That's one of the reasons the Daily Gun Show is so that you don't have to follow it. But everybody can't put their head in the sand, or the ostrich put their head in the sand. That's what the show. I appreciate you guys doing the show. Do pay attention if it ain't comfortable or interesting or fun.
I'm going to be right back. I need to reboot.
I don't know, Dead Horse jumped in. I don't know. Tony was just telling us about sort of the way that they ran the early watch, or have been running the early watch. It's pretty interesting.
All that, and I was busy taking kids to school.
Oh, okay. You can barely hear you. You taking kids to school?
Okay, is that better?
Oh yeah, that's
okay. Yeah. I missed. I just barely got back. I was busy taking kids to school.
Yeah, I just started a room. I noticed that it's a little earlier than Night Strike usually goes on, but he wasn't even hanging around yet, and Tony was, and those guys were already chatting in the text chat over on Gun Channels, and I was sitting here. I have to do some computer work anyway, so I figured I'd open a room over on the Daily Gun Show channel so that we got something over on YouTube. Of course, we embedded it over on the Early Watch. Sent Jimmy a link just in case he could have jumped in, but he's working already. But we got Tony in here, Dead Horse, and then we got people jumping in on Instagram watching. Howdy to the people out there. Actually, we've got quite a few people. And then we got the gun channels, and once a link, you can get it over on gun channels and join in the conversation. And then got some people joining over on YouTube as well. So Tony was just telling us again about the kind of way that those guys run the Early Watch, where Jimmy kind of researches what's going on in the news. Sounds like he gets some things set up and then brings it up live with Tony hearing it for the first time. And then I think that works pretty good. Like I say, I don't listen every day or nothing, but I really enjoy the show. As far as the format, I think it's natural, and I like listening to you guys.
It's definitely a lot better than pretty much anything else that's on this time in the morning, right? Like TV or, any, like there's hardly any other like podcasts or people live that I'm interested in that go live this early in the morning. So yeah, it's something nice to listen to, especially when they're, talking about guns and stuff like that. Tony starts talking about his revolvers and stuff like that. I enjoy that.
Yeah, well, that's all. I'm always about the regular people having a conversation about guns and then being able to literally be part of it. Like right now, all the people watching on Instagram, if they wanted to, they could jump over to gun channels, follow the link, and join us in this room right now. People on YouTube, same thing. Everybody knows that on gun channels. So it's like having a radio conversation with people who ain't paid to talk to you. They're not getting paid to sell you nothing. So they could care less what you buy or don't buy. If they're giving you a suggestion, it's because they have an interest in it, right? And if you got a disagreement or a question, you just be part of it. Or you can just text chat in on any of those platforms. So that part of it's cool. But then, like you're saying, for me at least, the options, I don't know what's on TV. I don't have TV. But on radio, it's all the pre-Rush Limbaugh shows. So they're getting ready to have like the biggest show on radio. And it's all their like, what do you call those? Like opening acts. And they're basically all just little wannabe Rush Limbaughs trying to be super Republican. And
yeah, and I can't watch shows like that, at all. So I'm not subscribed to anything like that.
Oh, this is on radio, I'm saying. So my alternative is to listen to that stuff on the radio. So whenever I can, I'd rather turn on the computer and listen to these guys talk about it, talk about regular news on Early Watch.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because half the time the topics those guys are talking about aren't even like something you even care about, right? Like it doesn't even interest you at all.
I mean, I kind of care about like the schools in Tucson, but I don't need to nitpick. I mean, if a school made a bad decision, because they do all the time, look at them, they're struggling, anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's like nitpicking about the way that somebody put up signage on a road or like potholes or stuff or like, taxes. Every once in a while, it's interesting when the federal level laws will affect us to hear it from the local side because, and that's applicable to everybody though, anytime there's something federal that talks about your area, that's the part I like. That's the time I like to hear local perspective on it so that when people are like, you live in Tucson and what about the blah, 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 then I can give you actual, response to that instead of just, oh, I don't know. I didn't know about it. But otherwise, I don't like to hear, like you say, I don't give a damn about their perspective on stuff. And almost always their perspective is just to be contrary, right? Like they did this, so of course we like the other.
Oh yeah, because let's face it, when people are disagreeing and arguing and all that and creating controversy, that's what draws in views, right? So a lot of these platforms, to stay relevant or to stay popular or to beat the other guy out on the next station over that's talking about the same thing, he has to be more vocal and more loudmouthed and more controversial. And I see a lot of that. And it just, I don't know, it gets old. Like I'm subbed right now to like on my main YouTube channel, I have over 330 subscriptions of places I'm subbed to. And the Daily Gun Show is the only one that's live. So, so it's like, oh yeah. Or which would normally be the Early Watch, right? So it's like, yeah, it's refreshing to have something just different. It's not the same old thing, because literally you can turn into any of those radio shows, and it pretty much sounds like the same thing every single day, day in or day out. The topic might slightly change, but it's like the same thing.
I really appreciate that. I never really thought about it that way. I come into the early watch just to help Jimmy. You know, I had no thoughts of being here for a long period of time. He was just trying to do something in the morning, and he was by himself in here. And I thought, well, shit. I'd go in there and kind of give him something to bounce off of. And, man, we just clicked right away.
You guys have this good like relationship with each other where you're still like two different people and come from like backgrounds, but like the way you guys bounce off of each other, if that's the right word, like you bounce, ideas and comments and stuff back and forth on each other and all that, it works out really, really well. Like you and Jimmy are a good team.
And it's absolutely natural. I mean, that's just how he and I interact. And it's one of the reasons why I wouldn't do the early watch without him. I'd rather not have a show than to do it without him, because for one, I can't do it by myself. And two, it loses something without Jimmy.
Oh yeah,
Well,
it's evident that neither one of you are like trying to become, what do you call, like newscasters or anything crazy. You're just trying to get a mission accomplished. So yeah, I can totally understand where you're coming from. It's not like, oh, Jimmy's not here, so let's put the camera on me today.
No, God was not. Take the fucking day off.
Have you, I don't know what's up with Jimmy's work schedule. I haven't heard anything about that, why he's not around in the mornings, but have you thought about maybe getting together with him and like recording the show at night and then releasing it in the morning or whatever, or doing something like that if he isn't able to be around for a while?
We have bounced that idea back and forth.
Because either way, even if it wasn't live, like, it would still be nice to have like an early watch in the morning, right? So like if he can't do it live for a while, like that, like it wouldn't bother me none watching it pre-recorded in the mornings versus, watching it live. It's better live, but it wouldn't be like a bad thing to watch it pre-recorded for a while if that's what you guys had to do to keep it going.
You ever had a cold omelet? I feel like eating a cold omelet. No, I'm just kidding. That's a great idea. I think it works.
I would be willing to do the show at like in the evening, but it would still have to be a live show. I would not record a canned show. That's not what we're about at all. Because a big part of us is reacting to the people who listen to us. And
you mean the
okay,
audience?
so what we do is you go live and we just have Jimmy, he records all his stuff, and then we just, he'll sit there and talk, and you'll just pause him and then answer his stuff and comment on his stuff.
Oh, we can definitely accommodate, because Jimmy is looking for, I think, more like a, stable 9 to 5 or whatever with a, what do you call it, schedule. So yeah, if he gets a weird schedule or has to set up a weird schedule to start off someplace or something, then we could do something like that. Maybe still do an early show, but then I agree with I think Tony's saying is the conversation. That's what I cherish about these live things, is that we could be calling each other on the phone if we just want to talk to each other, but we're doing this on a broadcast so that I guess people on 3 different platforms now are being part of this conversation.
Yeah, fuck, I don't think I've ever talked to Jimmy on the phone.
Yeah, I hate talking to people on the phone, because it's like, hey, we could be doing this public.
Now that I actually sit and think about it, I don't think I ever have talked to him on the phone. And I think the only person I've ever talked to from anywhere in gun channels on the phone is Dano.
I think I've texted you. the closest thing.
I've texted several people, or had people text me also, but
See, but ever since YouTube, I don't call people ever because my experience is most of the people I know are filming half the time, and you call somebody and it kills their video. It'll ring and stop. Like on my phone, at least it'll stop my video. So I don't really call people.
I wouldn't do any good to call me in the daytime because my phone's hanging outside the fucking door giving me internet. I don't ever answer my phone. So Jimmy may have called me 100 times. I just don't know it. I wouldn't recognize his number. Oh, no, that's not true either because I have him tagged for text. So my phone would recognize the number. I got to say one thing, man. I like the Windows Phone navigation. That became a source of entertainment while I was driving when I went to Tulsa and back.
You know, I out of all the different phones I could have got my father, I got him a Windows phone, and he's had an Android before. He's never had an iPhone, but he had an Android before that. And then he had a lot of trouble like working that thing and doing stuff with it. But the Windows phone has been a breeze for him and so much easier. He can go to his Netflix or check his email. He can even navigate the web now on that Windows phone, and he could never navigate the web on the Android phone. Like it was just that like that extra step too complicated for him. But yeah, the Windows phone seems like sweet, man. It's super easy, and you just ask that Cortana. Like he talks to that Cortana all the time. He's like, "Hey, Cortana, like do this or do that," and like and she gives him directions or finds phone numbers for him, like all sorts of stuff.
The biggest downfall of Windows Phone is apps, and there's so few apps for Windows that it makes it almost not worth having if you want to use the smartphone as your information system. That doesn't really bother me because either I'm using it as a hotspot for this or I'm using it as a hotspot for a tablet. I don't look at the internet on the phone because I can't read it. It's too damn low.
So I don't know how many versions of Windows phones there are. Bob gave me one that when he came down to the U.S., he has to buy a different phone. I guess they have different phones in Canada. They're like metric phones or something. So he got like, I don't know what kind, a Windows phone. And he didn't want it anymore, so he gave it to me. And I use it as like a Wi-Fi only. I don't have it hooked up to a service or anything, but I Wi-Fi it to whatever and then use it for Instagram and stuff. Or I don't use it for Instagram because that's what I was just going to say, what Tony said. There's no apps for it. You can't even get on a Hangout in it. And I don't think it has Instagram either, right?
Yes, they do now.
Okay. So then it might be a little bit more useful. But I don't know. Its navigation was definitely unique in it. I don't know. I guess I could see what you guys are saying if everybody's got a different, taste or.
Yeah, for my father who doesn't use any apps except for like Netflix, like that's really the only app he uses, and then just his like email. Well, now he uses Facebook actually, and this is a guy who never used a computer his whole life until like these phones, until he was in his 60s, right? Who has like no technology experience at all, like has a hard time hooking up his like cable box or DVD player to the TV and getting it to work right, like technology is just out of his grasp type of thing. And the Windows phone is like 1,000 times easier than anything else. It really is, especially with that Cortana assistant and stuff. He doesn't have to get on the internet and type in anything to find directions to a place or to find a phone number for a place. He just hits a button and asks this chick, like, "Hey, like, what's the phone number to this place?" or "What's the address to this place?" And then she just reads it off to him. Like, he doesn't have to type anything in. Or plus with bad eyesight and stuff, everything gets read off by that Cortana. It's been really, really useful for him.
If you're a Windows computer operator running 10, then the Windows Phone platform, which I think is 8.1 now, might be 10, is really intuitive because it's real similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. So yeah, the phones are easy to use.
And the thing about the phones is you might not be able to run certain apps, but there's actually computer programs you can run on the phones, like actual like real programs, though, right? So that's what I was looking into on getting me a Windows phone. I decided just to get a better, higher end Android, but I was seriously thinking about getting me a Windows phone after I got him his, because there's some advantages to the Windows phone if you're, there's like programs I could have ran on like for 3D printing or stuff like that, like that phone can run, but a normal Android or iPhone can't. Because it basically is, yeah, like it's a PC based operating system.
And if you're running a network, like a home network that's all Windows based, then your network will turn your computer into a caller ID center for your phone automatically. Whenever somebody calls you, it'll come up on your computer who's calling. That was part of the reason why I went to Windows Phone in the first place, to get that network interconnectivity, because I was running a number of computers here, and I thought that would be great.
Oh yeah, on his phone too. On his phone, I don't to save all his pictures, to take all his pictures off his phone. I don't even got to plug it into my computer. I just hit this this little button on my Windows thing, and boom, like all of his stuff gets like right through the Wi-Fi, gets transferred to my computer. All of his pictures, everything. So yeah, it can be really easy to link it to your computer, right? If you're using a Windows computer.
Yes. Yeah, if you're running
and to use it as a hotspot for your computer, it links like really, really easy.
Yeah, but Androids are easy too now.
Like my Android wants to charge me extra money to use it as a hotspot, so I have to like use this like separate third party app to use it as a hotspot. Because if I use like the built-in hotspot thing, it's like, oh yeah, like we'll upgrade your service for like an extra $6 a month, and then you can use it as a hotspot. But then I just download an app right off the market, and then it lets me do it for free.
I have tried the old lady's phone. She's got an Android, and I don't think it tried to charge us more.
I think it depends on your service, like who your service is through.
Verizon. I mean, they're charging me enough as it is. I really want to go back to cable internet. I hate this freaking mobile phone hotspot shit because I'm in a bad place. I don't get great reception. I drop out a lot more than I would like to. And it's expensive. I spend most months when we're running the show and I'm doing research and whatnot, I'll spend $105 a month on just the phone, because it's $65 for the standard service, and then I'll buy 2 packages of data. Now, this past month, I haven't run through all my data that just comes with it, so, and I still have a gig left, and my plan renews today, so I'm gonna have extra gig, I think.
Oh, you've got the rollover type of thing?
Yeah, for like 3 or 6 months.
Before I switched to what I got now, I had the rollover, but it would last 30 days. So whatever package I had it, I thought, leveled out, because I travel and I do things kind of in spurts, I guess. So some months I'll use a lot, and other months I'll use less, and it worked out for a little bit. But then after a while, I wasn't doing as much that needed the internet. So let's say, I forget what the numbers were, but let's say it was 20 and I only used 10, so I had 10 roll over. Well, it would give me that 10 rollover. I'd have 30 to use. But if I only use 20, it wouldn't roll over 10, and then I'd have accumulating. It would only last for 30 days, so it never really accumulated to more than maybe 8 or 10 hours or gigs or whatever it is, more than my plan. So that was.
I won't have a problem with that because I normally use like 26 gig a month.
I have 5 phones, 5 cell phones all on the same plan, and I get like 4.5 gigs on each phone of data at full speed, and then after that it's throttled down, but it's unlimited. And the funny thing is, I've figured out how to bypass that. Is like as soon as they start throttling you down, and you notice your LTE or 4G, like it drops down to 3G or something. As soon as that happens, all you do is just make a phone call. It doesn't matter who you call. Like you can call yourself, your voicemail, doesn't matter. You just make a phone call and then hang up. And then you're right back to LTE, like, or 4G LTE speeds. Like you're back up to the high speed. Then you can sit there and load more of your video and watch it and stuff. And that's how I figured out how to bypass that whole throttling thing, is you just make a phone call. And it instantly goes back up to like the 4G LTE for a while. And with my internet service, Xfinity, they have these like hotspots all over. And so anytime I'm anywhere close to one of those, or even like a McDonald's or a Denny's or something like that has free Wi-Fi, I just try to always make sure to connect to their Wi-Fi and use that too. So I'm saving my high-speed data. But usually I don't really have a problem going over like 4.5 gigs in a month, really. Like that really hasn't been an issue for me. For my kids, it has. For my kids, like every single month they go over their thing. But for me, like I only use maybe like 3 gigs a month. And plus, when I watch YouTube videos, like I turn down my resolution to 144p instead of the standard 360, 480, or even like 720. Depending on what they uploaded it in, right? But I always turn it down no matter what it is to the 144p, and I can still see okay. I might not be able to see all the fine detail, but usually whatever I'm watching on my phone, I'm not watching it for like fine detail. I'm watching it to like really just kind of listen to.
Yeah, it's not like this doesn't need to listen to this in 480 or 720 or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm listening to the Daily Gun Show or the Early Watch or anything like that, I turn it down to 144 when I'm on my phone. And that saves a shitload of data. And plus, I never have any issues with it, like all of a sudden, like buffering or anything like that. Like it doesn't matter if I'm on the move, on the freeway, it streams it perfectly. Like, and it'll stream it like all day long at 144p.
You know that I have found that being in the Hangout, it uses less data than listening to the Hangout.
I've found the same thing. Like my phone uses less battery life and less data being in the Hangout than just watching it on YouTube. Like if I was watching at full resolution on YouTube, it does. I don't know, and it's weird because I guess it depends on how much you're transmitting too, because that uses up a lot, right? Like when you're actually like uploading, but.
I didn't pay that close attention, really. I just know that when I'm on cellular data and I run out of high speed, I can do a Hangout, but I cannot listen to one.
I don't like to hang out on the phone because I can't. It doesn't give me the option on my phone to adjust the bandwidth, and so even though I have this like one really good phone with like a 13 megapixel camera, it won't. It all whenever I'm on that phone, it shows it like as really shitty resolution because it automatically adjusts for me, and I don't know why it doesn't pick up on that. Like why it doesn't say, "Oh yeah, you have plenty of bandwidth. Let's crank it up to high to HD." But like I can never get that phone to broadcast in HD over Hangouts. But
I don't know.
but I have a phone that's only a 5 megapixel camera, and I turn that on and it broadcasts in HD. So it's just I don't know. The Hangouts on phones are just weird. It, like every phone's slightly different.
Yeah, the Windows Phone won't do Hangouts, I don't think. Now, I haven't tried it since it upgraded. It upgraded its.
Windows Phone should do Hangouts exactly the same way as your computer does.
Well, it wouldn't let me go into one for the longest time, and the thing upgraded while I was on the hotel Wi-Fi in Tulsa.
But you're saying like instead of trying to find an app and go in through the app, instead just go to like the browser and let it go through like a Internet Explorer window.
Yep.
It won't run a Hangout that way, or it wouldn't. I haven't tried it since it's updated.
Well, the thing before you do it on the Hangout, you have to download Chrome on your phone. So you have to download the app Chrome basically on your Windows phone, and you have to have Chrome there because it's not going to let you like open it in like Internet Explorer, right? Google Hangout. Like you got to be like going through Chrome, don't you? So you probably have to have Chrome on it, but it should open up the same way. I mean, like it really should. A lot of other websites I've gone to on my dad's phone, Windows phone, and all that, even like really like heavy like browser based like graphics and everything open up really good on that Windows phone. I'm really impressed. Whereas the Android, it can take minutes to load sometimes. Certain websites that are like really graphic intensive and stuff. The
Like
Windows.
I haven't tried mine since. God, it would have been last hunting season. I was going to go live from hunting blind, and it said I couldn't do Hangouts.
Yeah, well, you have to be like signed in to Google, right? Because that's how because it just doesn't let you join a Hangout without knowing like who you are, kind of thing. So you're gonna have to like go to Chrome, download Chrome, and then like sign into Google, like sign into Chrome basically, and then just all you should have to do is just post the Hangout link in your browser, and it should take you because it's the same thing as like when I use Mini Opera or something like that on my Android phone, so I get like the full websites on my phone. Um, I can join a Hangout on my Android through the browser base on the Android. So if I can do it through the browser on the Android without using the app, I should be able to. You should most definitely be able to do it on the Windows. It's just you have to go sign into Chrome basically. I think that's probably why it wouldn't let you. You weren't signed into Chrome or Google.
No.
You weren't signed into Google basically on it.
It should recognize my Hotmail account because that's my Google account too. Because I wouldn't take a Gmail account when they first started having all that shit going on. I said, I ain't having another damn email account. I don't need it. I want to use my Hotmail account that I've had for fucking 10 years. And they let me. But now I have Early Watch IL, so I do have a Gmail account. And I think that's what I come on to this as now.
Oh yeah, you have to because there's no other way to join a Hangout.
Yeah, but for the first, up until I did the Early Watch, I come in here under my Hotmail account. Because that was my Google account. That's why it said my name on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But it's too much of a pain in the ass to have a Gmail account and a Hotmail account, and trying to make Gmail keep my Hotmail account as my primary was annoying as all hell. I'm like, fuck it. Just let everything I do with Google be on the Gmail, and they don't bother me either way. It did at first. It annoyed me, but I don't mind. People know who I am.
So it sounds like you're doing better just from listening to you. Feeling better?
Yeah.
Good.
Yesterday was the first day that I really started feeling clear-headed and alert. Really.
You kind of sounded groggy the last couple of times you'd been on, and you didn't stay on very long. So I'm thinking just from your clarity and endurance here, you sound like 1,000 times better than that. Well, than that first day you jumped back in.
You know, the funny thing is I really didn't think I felt that bad. But I couldn't freaking do anything. Just sitting here at the desk leaning into the microphone just was intolerable for more than just a few minutes. And I don't know exactly why. I mean, it wore me out. It wasn't that I was in pain. I'm about ready.
Probably, you know, when they get a damage that, whatever, that significant to that vital an area, you know, that probably just saps all of our resources and shit to make that heal faster than, you know, when it's vital like that.
Well, I went through the paperwork yesterday they sent home with me, and it said that god awful for about 4 weeks. So I'm approaching 2 weeks, and I don't feel too bad. I don't know that I'm going to go mow the yard this afternoon, but I might try.
Don't try that. Go fucking turn on the lawnmower and push it around the garage, but don't be fucking mowing lawn right after heart surgery. That's how people fucking keel over.
Hey, I tucked the old lady last night and it didn't kill me, so hey, I'm good to go.
Good morning. Hey, Dead Horse, I got an answer to your problem.
Okay, shoot.
So if you open up Hangouts as a link through Chrome, it'll give you the full version as if you would see on your computer, and you can adjust the bandwidth that way.
Aha, okay. So that's what I was thinking. The problem with that, though, is the reason why I like the app is the app's less data intrusive than the full version, right? So, but yeah, you know,
Yeah, by far.
it's like when I'm on the move, just on mobile, like on Wi-Fi, yeah, that works like really good. But when I'm mobile and I open it the browser based and I'm like actually like driving around in the Hangout, that's when it drops me constantly, it seems.
Yeah, network has a lot to play with it, but that's kind of one of my workarounds for the same thing as hosting a live panel from your mobile device too. I have unlimited data and I don't get throttled. So for me, it's not a big issue to run 70, 80 gigs a month, which I do anyways because I'm constantly streaming YouTube to listen to it as I drive. But that's you can do a lot of workarounds in Android. The only thing is sometimes it takes a lot of legwork to get to where you need to go, and it shouldn't be that way. And I think that's one of the advantages of the Windows phone is it's doing that workaround for you because it's already set up to use like a computer.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I noticed with my father's phone.
All right, guys, I'm going to bail out of here. Thank you, G-Webs, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Like I say, I'm going to try to figure out how to get it into a routine so that we keep a early watch show live every morning.
All right, you guys have a good day.
All right, Tony, take it easy, man.
And Tony will probably, well, not probably, but he sometimes jumps back in after a while too. I'll leave this running for a bit. I've got some stuff to do before I take the van over to get an alignment on it.
Just need some tape and a little bit of baling wire. You need to line it yourself, man. Just whatever direction it's pulling, just hit a curb on the opposite side doing about 65 and you're good.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Or like I'll just park and crank the wheel the other way. But people keep telling me that's a bad thing.
Yeah, did you ever get the box fixed on it?
No, because everybody that's looked at it like has said, "Oh no, it's not as bad." I mean, the symptoms would be that, but it has like no play and it's solid. So nobody's had any concern to like whatever. That's one of the reasons I'm taking it into the alignment place. I'll let them. They look at it on a daily basis, right? I'll let them look at it and tell me if they think there's any issue.
Yeah, that's a smart play.
I'm taking it to the same place that did the transmission, AMCO or whatever. So I'm going to get a checkup on that transmission right away.
What's the mileage on it?
On the van or the transmission?
The van and the transmission.
Well, the van's at like 170, but I don't remember. Whatever it would be from like Chicago around New York to Tulsa to Dallas to Colorado to here, and then California to Tulsa to here. Is that all I did? So maybe not even 10,000 miles, maybe half of that, maybe 5,000, 6,000. I don't really remember how many miles I've got on it since Chicago.
Then it's probably getting close to actually needing. It probably needs a fluid change because I'm sure just like a brand new car, you're supposed to change your transmission fluid like pretty quick the first time.
Well, I remember whenever I got it done, they said do it in like 3 months or whatever many miles, 3,000 miles. And of course, I hit 3,000 miles like in a week. So I took it into a place in Maryland after I left Marcos. And they drove around, but they didn't change any fluids or anything. He drove it around and said it was good to go.
Yeah, you probably need a transmission fluid change. That's because, like, usually, like on a brand new car or a brand new transmission like that, like, like you're gonna have some wear, like right off the start, and like little metal particulates and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna flush that out. I believe it's usually around 15,000 to 30,000 miles, though, like to do it at first. And then after that, you can go longer after the first time. So it probably depends on the actual tranny and what they recommend. But if you've already put 10,000 miles on it, I'd say, yeah, just I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't hesitate at all. It's just changing that out and probably the transmission filter too, maybe. What is that, a 4L80E that you have in that? Or 4L? And 4L80 probably.
What's it doing? Jesus, slipping or shifting hard?
No, nothing. It's just wearing the passenger side wheel funny. Like there's a sawtooth type pattern in the tread. So it's not right. And the steering wheel is not consistently 0, right? Sometimes it's off to the left and then sometimes it's 0. That's why people were thinking it could have been that steering column thing, or the gear. But no, fiddled with it, and he's like, "Oh no, this doesn't have any real play in it or anything." So it's probably just because being a long wheelbase, nobody who's ever driven it has ever been able to just do a U-turn, right? So that means you got to do a bunch of 3-point, 5-point, 100-point turns depending how good you are. But the thing is, I can do a 3-point turn in a cop car because you turn the wheel and the tires move. But on this van, you don't really, 1-ton van isn't moving when you yank the wheel. The tires aren't necessarily moving right away. So I think it's just putting all that stress on those, whatever the attachment arms things are called, right? And getting those things to slip.
Right. It might just be a ball joint issue or something on the front end, especially if it's a 1-ton and it was used as like a mail carrier. But as far as the transmission, usually you don't even, if it's a used transmission, different story. But if it was like something that got put in as a remanufactured, and you're not having any issues, there's usually no service to them other than making sure that it still has fluid in it. Because what could happen is that you take the fluid out of it and take all that metal particulate that's actually helping the clutch's grip, and then you put new fluid in, and now all of a sudden you have a slipping transmission until it builds up enough particulates in the actual fluid itself, because automatic transmission fluid's more of a detergent than it is an actual lubricant. Automatic transmissions work kind of funny in that way versus a manual gearbox. But as far as front end with the steering wheel slippage, it could be a couple things, but I don't think it's really too serious if the gearbox is tight. But it's probably a ball joint issue on one of the front sides if you're having a weird sawtooth pattern.
Yeah, when Cycle's brother, right? He was I don't think he considered himself a mechanic, but he's done shit like this and whatever. So he was like grabbing the top of the wheels and pulling them away from the vehicle, I guess you'd say, like in and out away from the vehicle. And there's a little bit of play on that passenger side one. So what's a ball joint cost?
Like 20,
Oh, those,
20 bucks.
yeah, those bands are pretty dang cheap.
Okay. So,
Because everything I think is a crossover with all their large trucks on the front end.
But what's it's a pain in the ass. You need to rent a special tool from AutoZone.
well, no, I'll be at the
Yeah.
alignment, so I'm assuming they'll just do whatever, right?
Oh yeah. If you're gonna pay someone else to do it
So
yourself, you need a
$90
special
for the
splitter.
alignment. It's $90 for the alignment. I'm guessing that includes some amount of labor. It's mostly labor, I'm guessing. So I'm hoping they're cool, and if it's a whatever, like what you're saying, like a worn out piece of rubber or something, or worn out piece of polyurethane.
Yeah, like ball joint or steering rack bushing, or sometimes the splines on the actual shaft strip. It depends on how hard that van's been like driven, but on work vans and work trucks, I've seen it before, where the spline on the steering shaft to the steering wheel will actually strip, and it's your steering wheel that's like moving on that shaft, and so you mark your steering wheel and you mark your shaft with like a little chalk line, and then the next time it's off centered, you look at that. But usually, yeah, like ball joint, like your steering rack bushing, or yeah, the literally the splines on the shaft. That's where I've mostly seen like caddy wampus out of spec, steering wheels on vans and box trucks.
Yeah, ball joints aren't too terribly expensive to get replaced. I don't imagine it's going to be too much more, even if Amco does it, because the part itself is 15 to 20 bucks, and it's labor, and it's just stripping off the wheel, separating the ball joint, putting a new ball joint on, and then realigning it. So it should be relatively quick and painless.
And I'm assuming if I tell them that, then they'll look at that first and do it before they waste their time aligning it and then doing it twice or whatever. Right?
Yeah, I would ask them to take a look at the ball joints first on the front end and let them know that the tire's wearing. That way, before they do the alignment, because the way the shop works, they're trying to make money. So they'll do an alignment, charge you for the alignment, charge you for the part, and then recharge you for another alignment. And it's kind of a screwed up way to do it, but they're not necessarily, mechanics aren't always the most honest when they really have to make money. And you never know when the next guy is going to come in with something. So it's kind of a shady business, and that's why I got out of it.
And what I would do is I would just check that ball joint yourself, G-Webs. Like what I've always done is you just take like a floor jack up your front tire right like on the lower control arm there, like basically right by the ball joint somewhere, right? You jack it up, and then you not only shake it back and forth, but you want to turn the wheel right and left and shake it, because sometimes perfectly straight, it'll be nice and tight. And you're like, oh, this ball joint's good. But then you turn the wheel a quarter of the turn to the left, and then all of a sudden that wheel, and you'll hear this like clunking sound, and you're like, oh shit, this ball joint's bad. So you got to turn your wheel back and forth and shake it But that's how I've always checked my ball joints to see if they're starting to go bad. And you can literally hear them clunk usually. You'll turn the wheel to a certain angle and you'll be able to shake that tire back and forth and you'll hear like a clink, clink, clink sound.
Yeah, and that's sort of what he was finding in the parking lot, I think, that day at the hotel. Without jacking it up, but just moving it, you could hear like a clink. And that's probably the rubber dying, right?
Yep. Ball joints like actually pretty easy to do, man. It really is. It's just that you need that special tool, and like AutoZone or whatever will usually rent it to you for free. You just leave your like license with them or a $20 deposit or something, and you buy the ball joint. Then you
Now they
replace
just
it.
charge you, and if you return it, they give you your money back. And then if you return it, you just have paid for it.
Yeah, and then take it in for the. If you find that ball joint's bad, that's literally easy enough to do. It really is. You just need a sledgehammer and this wedge, and you just pound this. It's caveman work. It really is. And then take it in for the alignment, like right away. Like, you know what I mean? Go straight from doing it to the alignment place. Like, you don't want to be driving around on it after you do that without getting an alignment. But like, it's not going to like throw it off so bad or something by replacing that you can't drive it to the alignment shop or, you know, afterwards.
Ohio is saying average ball joint replacement is $225 including parts. So there's no way I'm paying $225. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. And G-Webs, it's caveman work, dude. I'm sure there's 1,000 videos on YouTube, but literally it's a sledgehammer and a wedge and then a couple bolts, you know, a socket wrench and a breaker bar. Just make sure to get a cheater bar, like have a piece of pipe, because some of those nuts and shit are going to be so tight and so hard to get off. You need a cheater bar to break them loose.
Yeah, the tool he's talking about, the wedge is it looks like a big pickle fork, and it's just gonna slip around the joint, and you're literally just gonna separate the joint using mechanical force. Like he said, yeah, it's caveman work. It's a little labor intensive, and that's why they charge so much, because sometimes you literally get in there and beat on them. But only 170,000 miles. I mean, I don't imagine that thing's been rusted in and set, especially if you bought the van in Arizona.
Yeah, his should be pretty good. It shouldn't be that difficult. But sometimes you will bust a nut or a stud off or something, you know. I mean, it's, you know, especially depends on if it's ever been replaced before or anything and who, you know, how big of an impact gun they had when they put it back on, you know, and how long did they keep that impact gun going. And, you know, like, I just barely did a brake job the other day to my wife's car, and I broke 2 of the studs off of one of the tires because the guy who put those lug nuts on must have sat there with the impact gun for ever. And like I broke 2 studs just getting the tire off. I was like, God damn, I'm so thankful I didn't break down on the side of the road like with a flat tire or something. This wheel would have came off on the side of the road because I had to use like a 5-foot cheater bar just to remove lug nuts. So it depends on
No,
like
man, you just got to eat more red meat there, dead horse.
no, dude. I was laughing, dude. I was like, I was having like my stepsons come out there and stuff, and I try and like, you know, like, okay, come on, let's see how strong you are. Let's see you break these. It was funny, dude. But yeah, like it's not uncommon for a brake job to turn into what I call a brake job, as like you're probably going to break something. Like there's a good chance that if depending on when the last time that wheel was off or those brake bolts are out, or like, you know, or if you got to remove a caliper or the hub or anything like that, there is always a fucking chance you're going to break a bolt or break a stud or something like that. So like always, if you're going to take apart your shit, make sure you have a ride standing by. So if you break a bolt or a nut, they can like give you a ride down to AutoZone to get a new one real quick. Like you want to have that like set up, scheduled, so then all of a sudden you're not without your car, you know, and don't have a ride down to the auto parts store for however long.
I know. Too bad I wasn't in Central Texas, because when G came through, I would have literally just done it, because I have everything in my shop to do it. But, living in BFE sometimes has a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, like I was saying, the ball joints, it's definitely not easy, but it's not like, yeah, it's not, it's super simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And like anyone literally can do it just with a big enough hammer. That's all. That's a big enough hammer and a cheater bar. You're good to go. Anyone can do it.
Well, it goes back to
Yeah.
where I don't really have a place. I don't have a pad to put the van on. So I don't have any place with concrete that's level other than like a parking lot somewhere to do it in.
Yeah, it's literally just it's a morning job. Like if you started at one morning, you'd be done by noon. Just just keep just make sure you have a ride. That's the thing. Make sure you have a ride because you might break a bolt or a stud or something. It's really common. So you'll want a ride set up to go down to the auto parts store if you break a bolt or a stud, so then you can get everything put back together right.
Yeah, that sucks.
The other option is literally going to the parts store and asking them if you could work on your van in the parking lot and let them know what you're doing, and like park in the back corner.
Well, hell, I've done that, and usually if you park in the back corner and stuff, they never say anything to you in the first place, as long as you're not doing like a whole engine swap. If you just got one tire off the car, and as long as you're not like draining fluids and shit into the parking lot, I've never had them say anything to me about. Dude, I've done alternators and starters and shit like right in the auto part, store's parking lot. They've never said anything to me.
I had to do a motor swap on a '69 Volkswagen at an AutoZone. So then again, that's like 6 bolts and disconnecting fuel line and throttle cable, and then dropping the engine out, sliding it underneath, and just slapping the new one in, because the engines only weigh about 105 pounds. But anyway, you guys, thanks for letting me jump in here. G, I got to go back to work now. So
Right on.
good luck on the van, and Dead Horse. I'm looking forward to see your super cheap AR build. I'm really kind of interested in it. So
Oh yeah, I'm going to be building that live, and then we're going to be doing progress reports. I'm going to go out and shoot it live. I'm going to try and burn through 5,000 rounds through that gun this summer until it breaks. So it's either like 5,000 rounds or bust. So that's my goal. Is kind of torturing the hell out of that rifle this year.
right on, man. Yeah, I got a ton of lowers that I want to get built into stuff, just to have something ready to kind of get rid of if necessary. So anyway, I'm jumping out. So you all take it easy.
All right, later, man.
Pants is saying that nobody turns rotors anymore. The last time I did brakes was, I guess, a while ago, and they turned them. But I guess that was a long time ago now.
The place I use charges $15, and like new rotors, like on this car I did the other day, a Toyota Corolla, new rotors were like $38 plus tax each versus 15 each. So it was less than half the cost just to have them turned. And there's usually, I mean, when they're turned, they're just as good as they are new, in my opinion. It's just a piece of flat steel, really. So I don't mind having them turned at all versus buying new if I can save that kind of money. 18 extra bucks a piece in my pocket. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I think less and less places are doing it, especially like big places. Like you go to a Tunex or something, and yeah, they probably aren't going to turn your rotors. But you go to like a small town shop or something, that they probably have a. That's what I go to, is just a small town shop. You know, they've been there for probably 50 years, so I don't think they're going to stop turning rotors anytime soon.
Hmm. Okay. So let's see. Not much happening on the YouTube side. People chatting on the gun channel side here. Well, Pants is saying that the price to turn a rotor is $35. The new rotor was $17. We looked at that on the van, and mine are like $85. So if I can get them turned for $25 or something, it's more like what Dead Horse is saying. I don't remember what it cost when I had them done, but it was. I don't know if it was even cheaper necessarily, but for the cop car, I didn't want to wait around looking for cop car rotors. You know, it's not like I could just go to any Crown Vic and get rotors. I wanted cop car brakes. So
Yeah, because they're bigger brakes, right? They're physically bigger.
So in other words, the guy could just take them off and just take them over to the corner of the shop and do it. I was like, yeah, do it. I mean, I think that whole brake job was, including the parts and stuff, was under 300, so it couldn't have been too bad for the turn-in. But I do need to get one of mine turned also. Oh, it looks like we've been on for an hour. The Instagram has got the 30-second warning, because it'll only run for an hour. So we were running the early watch show over on the Daily Gun Show channel on YouTube, and we had it simulcasted, of course, on gunchannels.com. So thanks everybody for watching over on Instagram. Join us over on Gun Channels. Be part of the conversation. And we'll share that. 150 people watching on Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What shows are coming up tonight?
What is today? Tuesday?
Yep.
It is. Today will be Ghost will start it off, I think. Andalusia's still on their vacation or their break. I don't know if actually I think then it's just hit or miss. I guess I got it over on Gun Channels. And then
Big Gunner.
Big Gunner is, but what's his name? Ellis seems to be doing a show almost every night, right?
Almost. Well, it's either. I guess it would be more technically like a mix between shows and lobbies, because some of them are just kind of lobbies, right?
Yeah, and then that's what I was thinking of. He does Hanging with the Outlaw on Tuesdays, so that's after, or that's to begin everything. His will be before Ghost even. So I just saw we got a spam over here. I got to delete. When one of these weird fuckers signs up, I go in and I grab their IP address and I delete them, of course, but then I also ban the IP address so that nobody from that region of the world can log in again. It's the internet equivalent of carpet bombing. Only really come back to hit us a couple of times when, like, a couple of times there's been spam from like valid places. Remember the 50 BMG to the face guy? Or no, 50 Eagle to the face guy?
Yeah.
But like that guy kept coming in from like valid areas of the world, like not spam, capital Zimbabwe or freaking Afghanistan or fucking India or wherever the weird places are that spam usually. So I would go in and like take out his whole area, like, take out that region of the world so they couldn't log into gun channels. And then I'd get like, whenever I like was carpet bombing to get rid of that guy, I got a whole bunch of emails like, hey, we like gun channels. I can't go in there anymore. What's going on? I can't get to gun channels anymore.
And we had a problem with people like trying to scam one of our local buy-sell gun sites, where they would post like a $1,000 gun for $400 or something, and then you'd contact them and they'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm out of town right now, just like send me the money and I'll send the gun to your FFL or whatever. And we had that problem going on. And I told them that there was a way to do that, because I've heard forums talk about that before, like banning like the spammers and stuff, like how they could ban like an IP address from like an entire country or something. And I told them, man, like, that's what you do, and they were acting like if that wasn't even a real thing. And now that I heard you say it, like, yeah, that has to be a real thing, where you can like ban an entire IP address from a whole country, right?
Oh, dude. So an IP address is 4 digits, 4 digits, 4 digits, or it's 3 digits, 3 digits, 3 digits times 4. So it's like a phone number. So it's just like an area code and then blah, 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 whatever the fuck phone numbers are. I don't think phone numbers really are geographic. Like your phone number isn't one number different than your neighbor anymore. But I guess it's sort of like addresses or zip codes or something also. But anyway, yeah, IP addresses, if you, like, let's say you log in with 192.0.0.1, well, that's different than the next guy who's 192.0.0.2, right? So I can go in there and ban all 192.0.0s, and that takes out usually a chunk. But that's usually regional-ish. Like that's usually like one cable company or one, whatever the hell cable companies are called in other countries, or like internet provider. And then if I really wanted to be a dick, I could go everything from 192, and that's going to take out a big chunk of like probably Cox Cable or some shit. Like somebody owns, that whole chunk of the internet or some shit. I don't know. I don't really pay attention too much, other than I can either ban the person, which is ineffective, but I can ban an area and ban his internet connection basically, and then that works, because 99%, like I say, I've only really had one instance that I can recall over the 5 years now where banning like that has actually hit anybody that was an innocent bystander or like a collateral damage or whatever. Did you watch Budget over here? I just noticed that 40 minutes ago he did a 16-minute show.
No, yeah, I just noticed that too. I went over there and looked at it. It's about a father suing that deputy of Parkland.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I haven't watched it yet, though.
I'm okay with that, and I like that it's in the news at least, because it doesn't, anything that's going to make it clear that this isn't a black and white, that it's not some sort of math that if you get rid of the item that somehow that person's actions are going to change.
No, I'm okay with that too. I'm especially if they found that he didn't do his duty, right?
Yeah, especially if that's the case, and his whole thing is like, oh, it's not me, it's guns. Like, fuck you, dude. Take fucking responsibility for being a fucking coward or like a, dumb. Like, you don't necessarily, maybe you're not a coward, maybe you're just an idiot. Like, that's okay. But whatever, take responsibility for it. You either deliberately did something that had consequences, or you accidentally did something that had consequences, or I guess even something happened to you that had consequences, but doesn't matter. Got to deal with it, right?
No, I'm definitely okay with that, and honestly, I hope they win. I really do, because, well, I don't know, I can't say that for sure, but just based off of what I've heard, what that guy did when all that happened, how he hid, that's just not. I'm sorry, you don't go into law enforcement and hide, right? Like you don't, like if you're going to go into law enforcement, you have to be of the mindset that, oh, like I'm going to have to risk my life one day, more than likely, to try and save other people, right? So
Well, I
like
think you're a fucking oath. You got an obligation. You have
oh
a
yeah, exactly. You have an obligation to do that, but that's the mindset you have to have, even just going into law enforcement. Like you have to know that in advance. That
well,
like,
no,
oh,
no,
I'm going to be.
I'm not gonna. I don't know. I hear you. I'm not. I don't know. I hear you. But somebody like going into law enforcement to be a tax accountant, or going into law enforcement because they want to clean up the bureaucracy. You know what I mean? I can see other people going into law enforcement for other reasons. Is all I'm saying. But I think that I agree with you in the extent that, like, if you're on the street, your job is to be an actual officer, patrol officer, or whatever the hell the terminology is for like a dude doing the job of being a policeman, then I think it's more than just like you have a set of privileges that society gives to you, because you also have a bunch of responsibilities that come along with consequences when they're used poorly. And I don't think you get a choice. I don't know. I don't really think you get a choice when you're, when you're online. If you're the guy who's there, everyone is depending on it. It's like being a soldier and saying, "Oh, I didn't feel like fighting that day." You don't get that choice. That's treason, and you get killed for that shit. I don't know if you get killed as a police officer is too strict, basically, but I'm saying there should be consequences. Not only should their privileges be removed, but there should be consequences, like you have to pay something to society for the lack of job. We all depended on you to do a job and you didn't. It shouldn't just be civil against that family. You owe something to that family because you do, but you owe something to society, the city and the other people that, paid your salary and gave you that responsibility that you didn't do. And you don't have to be perfect, right? But you can't just stand there on the side of the road and be like, "Oh, I wasn't perfect." Like, no, you didn't even try. Like, you can go in and fail, but
And everything I've heard is just really, I guess it's just hearsay, but from everything I heard is that guy literally hid. Like he literally hid. It's not that he just stood there, or like he literally just went and hid and that's it until like others came. So
yeah,
like,
that's you don't get just go, "Oh, my bad." No, like, that was fucked up.
so do you think better training? Do you think it was just a case of like it was just that one guy, or do you think that there's a training issue?
Okay. Cops aren't cowards. I definitely don't like this idea that everybody's got to like jump to, how do we solve society's issues because of this thing happened or what? I mean, that thing happened. If it happens every day and it starts happening twice a day, there's reason to be concerned. That's a trend, right? But a point isn't a trend. Just the holster you're talking about, Mike? It's pretty cool. Mike made this holster over the weekend, I guess. Have you ever played with leather? Worked on it?
Yeah, I have one leather holster I made, and it's garbage. I dyed it red, but I had a guy help me do a lot of it. I used his sewing machine. But I have one leather holster I handmade, and I don't know. It turned out kind of crappy and really rough inside.
Like the inside of the leather, you mean?
Yeah.
I didn't. I wanted to do it, so I hadn't. I mean, I played with leather as like a little kid in Scouts or something, but I didn't remember any of that stuff. And I'm sure it wasn't anything like making a holster. It was more like get two pieces of leather out of a package and tie them together with some string, and then it's a mobile for your mom. Like I didn't dig into leather work or anything. I did whatever the basic was to get the merit badge and then moved on. So whenever I started having interest in this, and it was probably because of YouTube videos, people making stuff and Huck, right, and whatnot, doing the work in front of us on gun channels and stuff. So anyway, I started watching a few videos and I'm like, oh, okay, it's not that complicated. Leather's a really interesting material, right? You get it wet and it's pliable, really pliable, but then once it dries, it's what consistency of leather is. But yeah, it's really neat. So some of the stuff like rounding the edges and stuff is just a matter of playing with leather for a while. So for me, I bought a bunch of scraps because I was going to do leather or holsters for my little mini revolvers, which are, I'm not going to pay money for as many holsters as I need. So I made a couple and they were really shitty. And then I started figuring out what to do to make things tighter and smoother and figuring out playing with the leather. And I got really interested in it, but not to the point where I'm going to go into the business of it or anything. But it was super satisfying, I guess, how fast you can get pretty decent at it. So I think Mike did a pretty good job here. Getting like the two-tone stuff going. And then obviously the tooling on the gun channels are pretty good. He's got the sight on there. He's got the finger grooves. And the G's like freaking straight, right? Like there's nothing crooked or goofy or nothing.
His turned out really good.
Yeah, and there's no way, I don't think there's any way for a machine to do that. I don't know. You probably could. What I've thought about doing is getting a G made. There's a leather guy in town, and he will make whatever holster you want, sort of like basically, as long as you give him the gun, he can make the holster for it. So whatever combo you might have or whatever specific restriction or requirement you might have, you just give him the gun, he takes it for a day or whatever, makes the holster, and then gives it back to you with the gun, I guess, or gives the gun back to you with the holster. But for doing logos, I forget who it was. Oh, maybe it was Bob. Bob over at Tucson Guns was having a series made for an old gun that they don't make holsters for anymore. So he wanted to get a stamp made so that, he could identify his as his and not copies or clones of those original holsters that were made for it. And because they looked pretty darn accurate. And anybody who hadn't already seen one in real life would probably have thought one of these clones were real, right? So Bob wanted to put something on there. And instead of the guy just taking like, a letter A and a letter B and a letter C and spelling out stuff and it looks all weird, he had a stamp made, and that was only like $50. I guess they do whatever they do. They make it into a piece of metal, and then you got consistency. You're just smushing that onto a wet piece of leather every time, so it's literally the same stamp every single time. So I would do that with a gun channels thing for $50. Just don't have anything to stamp it into. Start making belts that just have G's all around them.
I'm looking for this is the one I made, and it didn't turn out near as good as that. But
no, that's pretty good. I mean, the edges just are sharper, that's all.
yeah, well, I was basically using like a paper cutter, like the old school like chop paper cutters.
Uh-huh.
Like that's what I was using to cut the leather with and stuff. So I was kind of using not all the right tools per se. And then when it came to other angles, and then I didn't treat the inside of the leather the right way, so I didn't smooth it all out. So after holstering and unholstering the gun a bunch, it became just super, super chewed up and rough inside.
Oh, I didn't know there was a way to do that. I don't use mine enough to have noticed that, I guess. You have to do something to cure the inside or treat the inside.
Yeah, and I didn't know about that either, so I just...
Oh, the most I did is on a couple of them, because it's basically smooth on one side and rough on the other, right? The smooth side is the hair side, the other side's the guts. And I guess if you get leather from the shoulders, it's thicker. Like the shoulder and the back of the neck is thick leather, and then the belly, and I guess the belly would be the thinnest leather. And if you get belly leather, it's more elastic, like a rubber band. You can shape it all you want, and it's going to go back to being flat because it's got no interest in staying in any shape at all. But the thicker you get, the more you get it wet, you put it into a shape, and it's staying there, right? It likes staying in a position. So you get leather in different, I don't know if it's grades or what, or if you just, as a leather guy, go in there and feel it till you get to the thickness you want. But I imagine the consistency changes as you get thicker to where it's more, whatever you call that, stays in position quality. So the stuff I had when I first started was really not good. I would make it into a holster, and then I'd look at it, and it was already just looked like a pancake again because it wasn't holding stiffness. Went in, talked to other people, figured all that out. And it looks like you got all that part. I mean, it looks like the trigger thing is sticking in there good. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like say, otherwise most of the shitty holsters just look like a kind of a weird cup.
Well, the thing about that one too is that it's kind of universal. That one actually fits a lot of different guns. It does. So I tend to use that one a lot, like when I go to the range and stuff like that. When I might be, because I own a lot of handguns that I don't own holsters for because they're just not, they're not a gun I ever carry or anything like that. So it
Well, these were not carry.
oh yeah, like I wouldn't use that holster to carry anything anyway, like for everyday thing, but for like the range and stuff like that, it works pretty good. I can fit a multiple variety of guns into it.
Oh, I guess what I was saying, the leather I have is sort of probably a little less rough on the inside than yours because mine is thinner leather that I used. But I just, the most I ever did was just take whatever that coloring. It's not really, I guess it's stain. I don't know what you call it on leather. You know, that coloring though, like whichever you did to make this red. I would put some of that on the inside, but I don't think that's any kind of conditioner or like anything. It just colors it, right? It's not like preserving it or doing anything for the leather other than coloring it.
Yeah, I think all it does is just color it.
But I guess making them for use is a whole nother thing. This one looks pretty decent though.
Dude, his looks like really professional. His looked like a professional did it. So that's the difference between a hack and a pro.
Well, I mean, like I say, your things
Like
just
I can't like the picture like makes it look better than what it is, probably even more than what it is. But like the little notches that I cut out for the belt, I kept screwing those up, and then I kind of cut those out too big, and they're not like they just look ugly. They're not like symmetrical cutouts, and just yeah, like having the right tools and doing several probably goes a long way. And plus, the sewing machine itself was just a whole new thing. Like I was afraid that needle, like to stress that needle, because I was actually watching that needle like bend as it was going through the letter. I think I was using too small.
Is your leather looks good. And for Mike also, you guys use machines? Because I just did my leather. You have this thing that looks like a spur on a handle, and you just run that spur along wherever you're gonna thread, and then that pokes little holes, right? Imagine a spur like a pizza cutter, except instead of a circle, it's a star. So it's like a spur, and you're running it along, so it makes like all these little dots along in a pattern. And then I shove my hand that hand thing you get with a big needle on it, and then the thread, and I would just by hand push it in each time.
Oh
So
no, I was using a machine.
Okay. Did you use a regular sewing machine or a fancy one?
No, it was like a fancier one for leather, but I think it was the leather that right there was way too thick than what that machine was supposed to do. Like that machine was supposed to do maybe like tanning leather, like for jackets or something. And that leather like is over a quarter-inch thick, like on the edges there. It's super, like you can tell on the top there, on the top of that picture, how thick that leather is, but it's over a quarter of an inch. It's really fucking thick.
Did you have it wet when you threw and sewed it?
What's that?
Was it wet when you sewed it?
Yeah. Yep, it sure was. But still, to stress that you could actually see that needle bend, and I was afraid that thing was going to break and fly at my face. And I've never even used a sewing machine before. That was the first time I ever even used a sewing machine.
All right, so let Jimmy know I approve. G is better than that other guy. Yeah, we're better than all of them. That's what's going to happen. We're getting rid of Jimmy. Jimmy's lazy. He keeps sleeping in. Smeggy? I didn't think that guy was still kicking. We figured he melted. So yeah, there's people watching out there. If you want a link, let us know. We'll throw you a link out here. And I'm basically waiting another couple hours until I can go get my alignment. But now I'm thinking I shouldn't have wasted my time. I should go get the damn ball joint, put that fucker on there, huh? And then go get the alignment. I don't know why my things. Try hitting me up with instant message, Smeggy, because something's going on with the new update on the chat. So there it is. I don't know if anybody else has been asking for links or not.
I don't see any other than Smeg.
Did an update over on the chats. on the text chats on gun channels, and for me, they're wigging out. Are they wigging out for anybody else? Like I can't get them to close once I open one.
No, they're working fine for me.
Okay, maybe it's my computer.
Patrick says, is there going to be a place and a time at the NRA show for gun channels members to meet up? I haven't heard of anything, but that would be a good thing to organize.
Yeah, that's something that's right. What's going on? So we're getting a weird echo. Maggie, I guess. Yes. Maggie doesn't know where to turn.
How am I getting an echo? I got my headset plugged in, unless it's being dumb.
Being dumb, I think. No, it's gone. So I'm not. It looks like I'm not going to NRA, so I can help with coordinating some stuff potentially. There's not as many people going to NRA, so it should be win-win, right? Fewer people means easier to coordinate, and fewer people to have to get together to do whatever live show or whatever, and they can all jump in one room. But I think we've got at least 3 coming from Texas, Ghost coming from Arkansas, and Matt said he's probably not going, and then Yankee said he isn't going, so that's frustrating. But Yankee wouldn't have done nothing anyway. So probably 4 or 5 people, and then Mr. Wright lives right down the street. Flippy, if you count him as being there. But yeah, we could probably run some live chats that are just open rooms and keep sending them links on their phones so that they can jump in easily.
Yeah, that does seem to work the best. We've done that kind of stuff in the past where, one person kind of runs the thing and then the other people can jump in with their phones whenever they get a chance. And that's
going Friday.
Possibility to help out with that as well, because that's one of the things that's kind of nice to maybe have, a couple people at home that are keeping the conversation going while people are jumping in and out. Because if everyone jumps out, then it's, there's nothing to talk about.
Well, and it's no fun just watching the same coverage over and over. So as things change, there's no reason why we can't keep evolving, I guess, the way that we're participating with the shows from home. I'm thinking setting up like we do with Wanamaker. We set up a channel on Gun Channels called Wanamaker, and then we're now accumulating the content that everybody's creating there. But there's nothing stopping us from setting up a room like that now, and then having it available so that as people are posting stuff, it just starts to accumulate in that NRA show channel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought we've done that in the past for NRA shows where people have asked about kind of like the SHOT Show thing, but hey, check out the new this, that, or the other, or can I get some pictures of this little widget thing? And then the people who go kind of help out with the people who don't get to go, and they look at the stuff that the audience wants to see.
No, that's true. Now that you say that, I'd say that NRA has probably been more visited or attended by more people from gun channels than anything else up until Tulsa.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I went the last couple years. Had a good time. Not able to go this year, but it's always a fun time. It's a good mix of stuff to do, like seeing things and making content and all that, and then just like BSing with my friends from online who I don't get to see that often.
So you've been up to anything good? Find a bunch of guns or anything?
Well, I went up north last weekend with a bunch of guns and built a new backstop for my range. Well, not like the whole backstop, but basically previously I have a sand berm and then I put some logs in front of it to kind of keep it from settling, and I buried some some 2x4s that I had laying around and put some trees that had fallen down that I cut in half behind it. And it just like, yeah, it worked, but it was built and designed to just be, replaceable and, oh, well, whatever. It's just a couple of trees. Who cares? I got them laying around anyways. But anyways, this past time I actually built a purpose-built backstop where I took some 4x4s and was actually able to bury them quite deep. That was one of the problems with the other one. I didn't have a pulse hole digger earlier. So, you'd only dig so deep with the shovel. And because I had these other like trees laying down on top of each other, I really couldn't get in between them to get the post buried that deep. So those 2x4s kept falling over. Well, now I got these 4x4s buried, and then I took some 2x6s and screwed them in on the backside. Like the bottom half, I put the 2x6s right next to each other to hold back all the sand. And then on the upper half, I spaced them out like either like a foot or 18 inches apart so that when I staple the targets up, center mass of a silhouette is hitting an open spot of, there's no wood behind it. So then I'm not going to have to replace that. Whereas when I had the trees all stacked up because they were sitting right on top of each other, I would staple right to them. And that kind of gave a hard surface, right? Because it's, bark's flaking off and different stuff. So sometimes the targets would fall over if you don't have something solid to staple to. And you're shooting through the wood all the time, and they were just cutting themselves in half pretty quickly.
What's your ratio of like steel to cardboard?
Not quite sure what you mean. I have 2 steel targets and a dueling tree. But then everything else I shoot just paper targets. And that's actually one thing I didn't get my steel targets mounted up. I wanted to incorporate like hangers into the backstop itself, like maybe come off sideways from the 4x4 and have just be able to take the steel on and off it so that it's not permanently outside. But I didn't quite have the stuff I needed to do that. I bought a bunch of hardware, but then I didn't realize that I didn't have like a full drill set. So the biggest drill I had wasn't big enough. I didn't feel like sitting there and messing with it too much. And I tried to buy some plant hangers, little shepherd hooks. And all the shepherd hooks I could find, it's like it looked like it would be okay. These the steel targets will slip right over these things, except right at the end, they smash the bar stock down and flatten it out, which makes it a whole bunch wider. And it's like that won't go through the hole that I have in my steel target. Like whatever happened to the super cheapo shepherd hooks that were just round, like round metal. All the ones I found were bar stock, which looked sturdier. That's kind of cool. But then they flatten the end out like a screwdriver, end. And it just makes it wider because it flares out, and then I can't get my target on there. So I just have to find other ones. I think I can always go that route as well. But I kind of like the idea of mounting up to the permanent structure I already have and kind of hanging them off to the side and then letting them free swing and just putting them on like a carriage bolt kind of thing. So that's really the only gun-related stuff I have was going up north and shooting with my friends. But putting them to work for Saturday morning.
Get a chain or some cables or something. Interface.
Yeah, I could have done something like that. So I don't know. I keep hemming and hawing on this steel. What I want to do. What will be the best solution? And then part of me is saying, oh, well, just get something that, you know, if it ends up breaking, you can just replace it real easy anyways. Because you always end up hitting the stand eventually. If I let my friends shoot or whatever, you know, they're not as good of aim as I am, so they miss every once in a while.
Go back to steel, but Patriot was asking about these Riley Defense AK-47s. I never heard of them before. Anybody heard of them?
I have not.
Dead Horse is more of an AR guy, but I know he's been looking at AKs. I don't know if he paid attention to these or not. Looking at that About Us page, says they're in North Carolina and that they're manufacturers, not retailers. So you buy them through Atlantic and Classic. So they are distributors. They don't, you know, they've been doing that for a long time. So that's something. And then let's see. The idea was born out of a need to produce top quality AK variants on the AK platform. Made in the USA at competitive prices with an emphasis on customer service.
Is it fully built in the USA, or are they using like parts kits?
That's what I'm trying to. I thought I saw something in here about. I don't know. It doesn't really say. It talks about how they do it, but it doesn't really talk about where the parts are sourced. Oh, I see. That's just part of
It just jumps you down, yeah.
It's like, why isn't their page work? Yeah, I don't know. They claim that they measure all the pieces and whatnot, and that they test them. 5 rounds of ammunition are fired to test the rifle for function and operation. And then it goes to the quality control for cleaning and inspection. I mean, 5 rounds. Very important, the trunnion is riveted to the receiver first, and then the barrel is pressed. What? And then the barrel is pressed in? Yeah, okay, that's what I do. We never use the barrel as a bucking bar. Okay, great. So they're like, we never do it wrong. After the barrel's been set up and we populate this.
We never just like purposely put it in the press and then put it in sideways and smash it. And
Yeah, exactly. We don't ever just ruin it. It says then we populate the sights and gas blocks, so that's telling me U.S. barrel. That's kind of obvious, though. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know anything about them. I don't have any interest in new ones, so I'm not a good person to ask about these. I figured I'd ask these guys in case they knew. And then, of course, the 20-something people that are watching can chime in. Don't see anything on gun channels. And wow, do you hear that? Can you hear that airplane?
No.
It must be flying low, or else it's raining. Let me go look outside. It's either a massive airplane, or they're flying around a C-5, or it's about to rain. I think it's about to rain. Yeah, it was just a C-130 flying low, but it is about a bunch of clouds up there. So if there's a bunch of clouds, that'll throw the sound down way more than normal. It'll make the little plane sound bigger. I always like to go out there and look when they fly around a C-5. They don't fly those that often. And then every once in a while, they'll like piggyback or whatever that's called, where if they're flying, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they'll fly like 12 Chinook helicopters. They'll just come in from the west and they'll go east somewhere. So stuff like that. I think they go to Davis Monthan to fuel up or something, or eat breakfast. I don't know what the hell they do. So every once in a while, you see like a crazy, unusual amount of traffic up there. Bunch of F-16s will just fly by, like a whole squadron of them or some shit. You know, taking them to Texas. I don't know what the hell they're doing with them.
That's pretty cool. I don't get to see military planes all that often.
Yeah, when I'm flying or when I'm driving around, it's weird. I do notice it. That I'll look up and be like, stupid airplane. Just a stupid airplane. Because I don't hear I guess I'm closer to the real base and not the airport. So the regular airplanes don't fly anywhere near me. In fact, I don't ever hear a regular airplane ever. I don't think regular you hear airplanes normally, but whenever I'm driving around, I'll be near an airport or something, and I'll look up and it's a stupid regular plane. So there's absolutely no info for you. Sorry about that, AK. So steels, I got a bunch of steels. I got a lot of money in steels that I never shoot ever. So maybe when I come up there for September or something, buy one off of me. Big steel for your place.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm looking to improve the range. And like I said, I probably could have spent more time and figured out a solution for the things I had, and just made it work. But to be honest, after spending all morning making I guess I'll call it like the backdrop or whatever, like the wood part of the backstop, because the sand was already all there. After spending all morning doing that, it's like my trigger finger's getting itchy. Do I want to spend another like couple hours trying to MacGyver something up to get this steel hung up, or do I want to just start shooting? And I decided let's just start shooting. But I have a chance to go up north all the time, so it's one of those work in progress type ranges where every time I go up, if I work on it for a couple hours and then shoot, like that's a good Saturday. Work for a little bit, shoot the rest of the afternoon, go home for the weekend, come back up a couple weeks later, work a little bit more. So eventually I want to get it to be like awesome. So I have, and one of that is putting the steel in, because I've set up a way. I had to take a tree down, but once I took the tree down, I have a shooting lane where I'm capable of shooting about 300 yards, and I'd like to be able to have the steel there, so as I'm shooting at it, I can just hit the steel from 300 yards. I don't have to worry about going back and resetting targets and whatnot.
Yeah, you got the option of getting one of those video systems too, where you set up the camera downrange, shows you, the monitor where you're hitting.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
What the fuck was that? But yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about stuff. So you could have like a car battery powering a little thing. Hell, you could probably put some kind of solar powered little gizmo on a stick in the ground, and then plug your camera in when you're there, and it just runs off the solar little charger trickler thing. When you leave, you take it off the pole and put it in the house. I'll bet you they have something like a nanny cam or something. You just use whatever phone. Doesn't even have to be a specific gun thing, right? It could just be some little dash cam, nanny cam thing that you can see the target with, and then just Wi-Fi it to your phone or something. Wonder how far Wi-Fi would work like that. Is your house in between where you shoot and where you hit?
Yeah.
So it might be able to be a, what do they call that? Hub.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I don't have any networks or anything up there as far as like connecting to the Wi-Fi or something, but there might be something I could do. Figure that out.
You got electric there. It's not like a generator.
That's correct. Yeah, we're on the grid. Although I actually spent a lot of time the other day looking at different systems of solar and wind, and even doing like a hybrid, like where you're kind of on the grid but also kind of have a battery bank and different stuff. Because my dad's expressed interest in putting some renewable energy up there. Because for as little as we use the power up there, it's so expensive per kilowatt hour that the monthly bill for up north that we use, let's say 2 weekends a month, is like the same amount as the monthly bill at home. And obviously we're using way more energy at home than up north. So we can get into a deal where we can, backfeed the system and get some credit for it or whatever. Then I think that'd be advantageous, because most days we'd be up there, or most days that it's up there, it's just making power that no one's using, and we're getting credit for that. And then on the weekends when we're using power at night and stuff, just pull off the grid. Might not even need the whole, battery bank stuff anyways. Like, I was thinking that kind of would be more of a hassle because of winterizing and whatnot. You got to make sure your batteries don't freeze, and you're always checking the water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, seriously, if you're not interested in making it like a fallback shelter type of bug out area where you want that as a resource, then that makes sense. And then, yeah, you've almost got like a trickle return on your investment or whatever, like you kind of offset in your regular bills.
Right. And even if it just turns the bill neutral, that ends up being worth it. So like I said, we're paying, well, it's electrical co-op, so it's like we pay, I don't know, whatever, like $50 a month or whatever. I'm making up numbers. I don't know. My dad's the one that pays the electric bill. But it's like you're paying $50 just to like have access to the power, and then you're paying like 50 cents a kilowatt hour to get the power. Whereas at home, you're hooked up anyways, and you pay like 10 cents. So it's like once you add all that up, it ends up being quite expensive just to have power up there. And I understand why they do it, because, a rural area, they're running all these lines all over the place, and they have 3 customers. So it's like they put in all this infrastructure, and they need to pay for it.
They're also massive companies that get paid a ton of money and have super waste. So it's not like they're suffering. Unless it's like a little local co-op, and maybe they are.
It is a co-op. I mean, I don't know how big of a co-op it is, but they're definitely not like DTE, which would be like, the Detroit Edison. They're nothing like that size.
I'm gonna switch topics. So Dead Horse is talking to somebody on the gun channel side, no, YouTube side, about those Russ, about those sports cams. If you want to link, Russ, got it on the gun channel side. I've got one from back in the day where some company called Target Cam or something made one, and it was a screen and a camera, and it fit in like a pistol box with like some foam cutout and stuff. I don't know if you remember when I did a video on that years ago, I think. But if I can find that, you're welcome to use it. It wasn't all that great, but it's free.
All right.
Yeah, I've looked at those Target Cam type systems, and I think that's a neat way of spotting your shots sometimes, especially when you're shooting, tiny little bullets, and you're not using those like shoot and see targets and stuff like that. It can be a pain in the ass, even with a decent spotting scope, seeing like, where did I hit? Like, did I even hit the target? Like, am I even on the paper? I think one of those cameras sitting like right there in front of your target, like that probably helps a shitload, right?
Yeah, and I like that. Russ is saying that it's, about line of sight 500 meters as far as like how far it can transmit, which that would be perfect for, my use.
I was muted. I was saying in theory, yeah, I agree with what Deador's saying, but the reality of that one, at least, was the screen wasn't like this was years ago, so it wasn't even like it was just a little monitor, like a little TV thing. So it wasn't bright, I guess what I'm getting at. You could, the camera was fine, it was totally adequate, but you couldn't make out on the monitor what was going on. So if the new ones use like a telephone where it can get really bright, or if it's just got a nice display made out of an iPad or something that can get bright, then it would be better for outdoors.
Yeah, like even with my screen on like my cell phone, the brightness turned all the way up. If I'm out in bright sun, I have a hell of a time seeing my screen. You know, especially with like a screen protector on it and stuff, and you got to sit there and shade it just to see the screen. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I could always make a little like box thing, right? Like a little sun hood, and then because that's the thing, because I'm shooting on my own property, I'm gonna be shooting from like the same areas all the time. I could just put something out there in the field that's like a little house that can put the monitor in so it's in the shade. Might be easier to see. But either way, I mean, worst case scenario, I just keep doing what I've been doing, and that's shoot for a little bit, and then walk up and look at the targets, and then go back, shoot a little bit, walk up, look at the targets. I do that too.
What I have to do is what I is like some of the distances I shoot at. You know, we're talking like 600 meters or farther. So like I'll shoot, send the kids up there and have them take a picture of the target and then come back. And then they get to run the distance.
Yeah, that works. I mean, I can't get any more distance after this 300 yards just because of how it's set up, and basically there's woods behind where I'd be shooting and then that road. So I can't go any further back, and it is what it is. So 300 yards isn't the end of the world. Get a little bit of exercise.
That's still pretty far, man. That's hard. That's a lot farther than what most people hunt. Like that's farther than what I hunt. I never take shots at anything past 300 yards. Like I don't ever hardly take a shot past anything past 100 yards, because where I hunt, usually I'm able to get, within 100 yards.
Oh yeah, I completely just want to do this for the sake of being able to shoot a little bit further,
which is fun.
I don't practice any of that stuff because with my ninja skills, I can just sneak up on any critter, just pop it like a 38 stub nose. I don't think you need a long gun for hunting if you got ninja skills.
Oh, I agree, and I would much rather, just jump on its back and tie a rope around it or whatever, take it home,
Ride it right to the barbecue.
Yeah, it's always better to keep. What's the best way of keeping meat fresh? Just keep it an animal for as long as possible, and then turn it into meat. But anyways, I mean I just want to learn how to shoot far, because before that, I mean, like 100 yards is all I've really shot. So now I have the opportunity to shoot further. Although I will say I was shooting my 17 HMR at 100 yards. That was kind of fun. My buddy was shooting his 22, and it's like it's amazing how fast those little bullets start moving around at even 100-yard distance. Really humbles you when you go and look at the target and be like, oh, I hit it like twice-ish. I don't know where the other ones went.
I think shooting longer distance, like pushing yourself, it makes shooting more fun. Like, I don't know. Like, I think almost anyone can really kind of get behind a rifle and just kind of like shoot steel or hit a target. Not like shoot tiny little groups, but like hit a target at 100 yards with pretty much any rifle. But and it kind of becomes boring after a while. You're like, yeah, like I know I'm going to hit that. Like that's easy, right? So then pushing yourself out there farther where it's not so easy, that makes it funner.
See, that's
challenge yourself.
I guess because I grew up in ranges where you had to sit there and all you could do is shoot at paper. I have no interest in that. I had to do that my whole life when I was a little kid, it feels like. So when I shoot rifles, or when I used to shoot rifles, you'd get them on paper to where they were like a quarter. I don't know what the hell MOA that is. You know, once you're down, you cover them with a quarter at like 100 yards. That was good enough for me. And then I like shooting at steel, and I agree that it's not a good, it's only reactive. It's not good feedback on if you're dead on accurate, because a lot of times you need to be pretty accurate. But to make it more entertaining for me, I guess, or I don't know, I liked it better, was we would move around. Now we had the opportunity out here on our ranges to be able to set up the steels downrange on a range that's like, I don't know, 300 yards long, and we could put them out at whatever distances we wanted. But then we didn't have to, we had the range. It was like you could reserve the range for the day to do whatever practice you needed to do. If you were, you know, in the business of needing to use a gun, you could do training for that. Or if you were like a competition shooter, you could do training for that. For us, we were filming videos, so we would reserve the range and we could do whatever we wanted. Basically, no range safety officers, nothing. You're just on your own to, you know, obey the rules and have fun. So, you know, we would necessarily do drill. Well, sometimes we would do drills. We had one actually that was when we were really into doing drills. The what do you call that one? The target, the drill. What the hell's it called? The dot.
Like the dot torture?
Dot torture, yeah. That whenever I first found out about the dot torture, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I was reviewing a lot of classes at the time, and more often than not, classes, you'd either experience a drill in the class, like you'd run through a drill, or they would give you some kind of a handout maybe, and it would include something, or maybe they'd give you a reading list, and it would include some kind of a drill, you know, an efficient way to use 50 rounds in practice, so that you use a lot of different motor skills or whatever. And so we would come up with drills where we would go back and forth from the targets, I guess is what I was getting at. So that instead of just being boring, like you're saying, just shooting at paper and like, oh, I'm good at this, or worse, at steel, like, oh, I always hit what I'm aiming at. Like, you just instill confidence that you shouldn't. We would be moving around. We'd be walking, we'd be getting up and down, shooting prone, shooting from sitting, shooting from this, you know, the shoulder while walking. And I'm sure we weren't hitting accurate all the time, but we were making steel ring, and that's good enough for 90% of shit, right?
Well, most definitely, and I've always said reactive targets, whether it be steel or like just like water bottles that you're blowing up or stuff like that. Reactive targets are always more fun than just paper. Like paper is actually like really boring to shoot.
Yep, I agree with that, because I'm in the philosophy of close enough. Like, if I could describe my training goals, close enough is pretty accurate. So yeah, I don't know. I do tend to. It's kind of similar to what Geobs was talking about, how you get the range to yourself and whatnot, and you can start having a little more fun. That's how I feel when I'm up north, because it's just me and whoever else is up there, and you know, like you said, obviously we're being safe and whatnot, but we're able to do stuff that at a regular, even a regular outdoor range, they're probably not going to let you do.
Well, like draw from concealment or
I'm gonna say
stuff like
that
that.
was, yeah, I was just gonna say that's the biggest one. Is I do a lot of like CCW training type stuff that you might not really be able to do at a regular range.
Yeah, that's the
But
big thing for me, is being able to practice stuff like that, like drawing from concealment, stuff like that. And like drawing from concealment and shooting basically as fast as I can, but like where I hit that target, right? Like, and stuff like that. And I can't do that at like any of the ranges, you know, around me. Like, they see you drawing from concealment, they're like, oh, no, 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 no. You know, like, and I understand why they don't want you to. Their liability and your, you know, stuff like that. I understand their reasoning, but I still think that needs to be practiced, right? We have to be able to practice that somehow.
Right, and that's where, I mean, you know, dry fire practicing type stuff can get the mechanics down. But I agree with you that it needs to be practiced at some point. But again, that's type of stuff I won't really do that when I'm up north with my friends or whatever. Like that's, you know, I'm going up there just to kind of hang out or whatever. So it's more, okay, let's set up a couple cans and try and take, you know, whatever ridiculously long shots, or, you know, I don't know, try and hit a quarter or something like that kind of stuff.
What you should do, Smeggy, is I'll give you a hint. If you want to play fun and games with your buddies out shooting, is get some bowling pins. And go set them up at like 100 yards, like 10 bowling pins, and then have games. And you can shoot them with your 22 too. Like whoever knocks over all 10 pins in the shortest amount of time wins. Or do 5-on-5. Like if I knock over my 5 before you knock over your 5, I win, type of thing. And you know, but it's basically kind of like pin shooting, but you can play it as a game with multiple different rifles. Because even at 22, if you hit the pin in the right spot, can knock over a pin at 100 yards.
That sounds like a good idea.
I got a giant box of bowling pins if anybody wants to buy a box of bowling pins. It's in Arizona. Because I'm assuming nobody wants to ship them.
Yeah, no, like I usually we get our pins for the pin shoots. The bowling places usually charge $1 for the used pins.
I guess that's something. We were Tucson Guns was like the back door was backdoors with the bowling alley, so they would come over. And it wasn't like all that regularly. It must have been when like certain employees worked there or something. But anyway, every once in a while they would have a mess of them. So they would think they would just give them to them. But I've heard of bowling alleys and they're real jerks about it. They're real stingy, or they charge real money for them.
Yeah, I mean, last time I went bowling, they yelled at me once I started like climbing down the aisle to go grab some. I don't get it.
Well, when I worked at a bowling alley when I was a little kid, they would just give them to people because they were just garbage, really.
No, there's just a piece of wood with this, piece of pine wood, right, with this like a little thick plastic coating.
Well, they're like butcher block inside. They're cheap, or I mean, they probably have to be consistent, right? Because it's a sport and people worry about it. So I'm sure it has to be like, I'm sure a certain part of the wood and made in a certain way, like a baseball or whatever. But yeah, they're basically just wood with a big plastic shell around it. But at some point, I don't know what the criteria is, they get damaged, and it probably has to do with that wood in the middle, right? Once it gets too bouncy, imagine if you had a bowling pin that was twice bouncy as a regular bowling pin. Like that would
I think
be.
it's as soon as it gets a flat spot, because that's what we notice on all the ones that we get for the pin shoots, is that like the pin looks like sometimes it'll look like brand fucking new, like brand new, but it has this like one little flat spot on it from where it got crushed in the side by a bowling ball up against the side wall, or something like that.
Literally change the shape of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, see something like that where it now all of a sudden it's going to shoot funny. I'm sure they get rid of them then. But yeah, they usually have like a big bin of them, so I don't know why they're.
And they hold up well. A bowling pin holds up surprisingly well because of that plastic coating to shooting it. Because we put a shitload of rounds of 45 ACP into these pins, and by the end of the night, after hundreds of rounds, they're still like pretty much intact. Yeah, they're heavy and full of lead now, but they still have the shape. I mean, they will last a long, long time.
That's why I think people don't use them, because after a while, for us at least, you shoot the wood out of them, and then you can't tell you're hitting them. They don't necessarily knock over anymore. So, they have a lifespan or something. But
yeah, they definitely do. And that's why in the pin sport, like we actually change our point of aim later on in the match as they get heavy to help. We actually shoot lower on the pin, but below basically center mass at that point to help drag them off the table once they get heavier and heavier. So like you have to take that into account shooting pins for competition. With the weight, and then we have 22 shoots with pins where we cut the heads off the pins, and then we reuse the heads and we shoot the pins with the heads of the pins with 22s.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Because
It's a lot of fun.
Usually do survive because nobody hits them.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
But that's how we repurpose and save a whole nother thing. And we're trying to start a thing for the kids, so the fathers who shoot pins can like bring their kids, and then the kids can like shoot the pin match with the heads of the pins from the previous match, type of thing, you know. But we can't get enough kids to make that happen.
We would take the bowling pins and put them at the base of a cardboard target stand, and then do your hits or whatever, and then we would knock over the bowling pin to be like the bad guy who goes down and then gets his blood pressure back and comes back into the fight, and now you have to hit a headshot to dude on the ground kind of shit. So instead of being like bang bang and then a headshot as if the bad guy is still fully erect and running at you as if those two chest shots did nothing, you'd have to like change your position or point of aim or whatever and get a shot. But I think the best way to do bowling pins is when they're hanging on those things like Smeggy's talking about, because then they're kind of reactive. You hit them and they move around. You know you're hitting them.
Yeah, for our pin shoots, we literally just have bowling pins 10 yards out in front of us, and there are 5 on each table, and the first person to clear all 5 from the table wins. So it's not just knocking them over, because sometimes they'll knock over and they'll roll around and stay on the table, especially as they get heavier, or sometimes each table is up against a sidewall, basically a concrete wall, so each table basically has a side to it, and they can roll up on that table up against the wall, and then you literally got to shoot off the wall and bounce it like, you know, Matrix type stuff. You're literally trying to bounce around off of a concrete wall into the pin to get it off the table. What's some other shooting games you guys have played with buddies? Like we used to throw like a ball up a hill and then shoot that ball, and then whoever can get that ball to climb highest up the hill wins.
Well, that would be pretty good.
Like basically like the backstop or whatever, you know, like use a baseball or.
For a long time, we used to shoot out where I guess you call it quarry, like where a dry wash, where they were digging sand for roads probably or something. So there's a bunch of sand walls we could shoot into, nobody cared. And we used to like to just take shotgun shells, whatever shitty ones we had we didn't like, and just poke them into the sand and then walk back and shoot them at 22s. That's like a whole afternoon of fun for like whatever the cost of a brick at 22 and all your old junky shotgun shells. You can get junky, like a whole big Ziploc bag of, you know, a gallon Ziploc of, you know, questionable old junky shotgun shells for nothing at gun shows. And then they just blow up into the sand.
No, I've shot a lot of husks too. They're definitely cheap target, especially for 22s. Yeah, that is a great thing to do. Especially kids love it. Kids love reactive targets. Anything that knocks over and flies off and, you know, gets a hole poked in it. It's so much more fun for the kids shooting something like just an empty shotgun shell than it is paper. You know, because like when they can shoot paper all day long and shoot groups and stuff, and just, you know, they walk up to the paper, all they see is paper. They, you know,
well, it depends on the kid too. Just like you're saying, some people really enjoy the idea that they can, number one, they can do it, and then once they figure out that they can do something that most people ain't gonna put the time and effort into even trying, you know what I'm saying? Some people really dig that. Oh, I know. I would say though, right when we quit shooting really a lot is when dude bought that tree, and I think it could handle 9mm. We couldn't shoot rifle with it, but we could handle pistols. So it's medium, I guess. It's not the biggest tree in the world, but it's manageable, and it's definitely bigger than like my little 22 trees. And that thing, I think it has 6 or 7, and that thing is a heck of a lot of fun. I think it's well worth the investment. I think he paid 100 and something for it, 150 at a gun show.
Yeah, I really like my dueling tree, and I got it as a gift, but it sounds about that same, like that same size or whatever. And the same thing, shoot handguns at it, but there's so much stuff you can do with that, challenging your friends, shooting the dueling tree.
I've never owned one of those.
Like I said, I think that's probably well, okay, that's not true. For playing around, that's fun, and I suppose it's good for, like, I don't know, shooting a squirrel or something, or a rabbit, or maybe, you know, something that you'd have to get a quick target on. But the targets that we've got that are reactive, but then also have like a spot in them. So either they have, like, some of them have a paddle or whatever you call it, like with the hostage taker, I guess, the bad guy, is like a little flag that's behind so it's a metal silhouette with a flag behind it over the shoulders, and that's the bad guy. So when you hit that, it's sort of like a dueling tree. It flips over to the other side. You seen that type? And it's sort of like to emulate the bad guy's forehead poking out behind a hostage. So we call them hostage targets, and that way you can just shoot at the main steel all you want. But if you really wanted to give yourself a challenge, you hit at that little flag, and now if you hit the steel, it's bad, right? Now you're hitting good guy. But when you hit that little flag, you know it because it flips over to the other side. And that automatically makes it so you have to get a new target. You can't just, take 2 shots, and then you don't have to go reset nothing. It just flips over. If it gets stuck in the middle, you hit the target, and it'll fall to one side or the other again. So stuff like that. And then we had, in that mess of targets, we also have some where the center is a little flapper. So you hit most of the target and you get a noise, but when you hit that little flapper part, you get a different noise. So at distance, you're hitting, but now you're hitting the sweet spot because you get a little different noise. In fact, the good ones, the big ones, have the little flapper. Not only do you hear something differently, but they also have kind of an antenna sticking out of them. So when the flapper goes up, right, when you hit it, a flag waves, like a little flag waves over the shoulder of the target out there, so you can get a visual as well as the audible indication that you hit the sweet spot. And those made a big difference, like, because that steel is fun, but then those gave us more challenge to the steel. And I'd say for real life, that's actually a little bit more practical, I guess. So I'm going to weigh the scale to that being the most. So if you have regular steel, take a look. Sometimes you can just buy these things that'll add that element to it, add that little shoulder flag or paddle or whatever you want to call that. Sometimes it'll just hook to the back of your existing steels, depending on how they're mounted or how they hang. Ohio's the shaped ones, like chicken, pig, goats, and turkeys. Like the little steels there. Those are a lot of fun. I'll agree with that.
Right. Although it also does mention, although you have to go reset them, which can kind of be a pain.
They could make them all on hinges. So that's number one. So now they're only going to fall over, right? And then I was going to say some complicated thing with electromagnets, but if they were all on hinges, then you'd put them all on a metal bar, and then you'd have a thing that you yank on, and then the metal bar,
just like a plate rack.
Hinge. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly like a plate rack, where you just go yank, and they all come right back up again. Huh. Wonder why somebody doesn't make that, especially in Tucson. I know Russ is listening. The 3 Points out there has a really elaborate setup of those little things, and you'll go out there and set them all up for like a half an hour or something, setting up all these little fucking little tiny pieces of metal. And then, yeah, you go down there and you have a great time knocking them over, but then you got to go walk around picking them back up again. So sitting out here, metal wouldn't rust or nothing. Even if it did, you just grease the shit out of it, right? Heavy grease.
No, I mean they could have spring-loaded ones as well. I mean, if you've seen the poppers that they use like in competition, which are kind of like they're like bowling ball shaped kind of things. I don't know. Although they're round up top and then skinny. But I've seen those that will have a spring-loaded mechanism, so they fall down and then they like kind of delayed reaction, take a little bit of time to spring back up, but they actually reset themselves.
Yeah, I think LaRue made them. At least that's the first time I heard of them. And yeah, I think of a popper like a bowling pin that ate a golf ball. Got like a big golf ball bulge in the middle of a bowling pin. And then, yeah, like you're saying, they knock over, but I think they just have electric motors and then some kind of, timer. Okay, we knocked over, give them time to understand that it knocked over, and then slowly go back up again. And then next time we fall down, set it back up.
I don't think there's any motor. At least the ones I saw looked like it was.
I've seen both. I've seen some with motors. I've seen some that are just nothing but gravity, and they're literally calibrated for a certain like load factor that you're shooting, right? So, so it takes a certain amount of force to even tip them back.
They're all like that. Yeah, they actually have like a bolt, and that way, if you're shooting like 9mm, like they'll make them feather, triggers, and then if you're shooting a real caliber, you actually have to hit them. Or maybe they'll say like you have to do it with a shotgun, so you have to hit it, really hard, or 5 times with a pistol before it'll knock it over.
I just have these little spinners that you just stick in the ground. Like they literally have like some. I have some that are round and some that are diamond shaped, but they'll have like 3 spinners, and the one in the middle is
like a little hoop or whatever, and then a bar going across.
Well, I have some that are just straight up spinners, and then I have the one that has the bar going across. So you shoot the 3 bottom. There's like there's a target on top, and then there's 3 on the bottom. So you shoot the 3 on the bottom, and the 3 on the bottom like sit against the bar on the top, so they like lock up after you hit them. And then you got to shoot the target on the top, and it resets the 3 on the bottom.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And but like, man, I bought one that was rated for Magnum pistol calibers. It's a 1/4 inch thick. And my 41 mag bent it because I hit right on the very edge of the diamond, and it literally twisted it like 45 degrees. And that one was supposed to be rated for Magnum calibers. Then I have another one that was rated for center fire pistol, like 45 ACP and down. And that one I decided one day to put out at like 200 yards and shoot it with a 5.56, thinking that at 200 yards that 5.56 probably didn't have the energy to hurt it, and boy was I wrong. It made a hole right through it. So
yeah, that's good with those. I bought them. I think I got some as gifts, and then I had some as a kid that I used for BB guns, and those can't hold up to anything. And every other one we had has big holes in it from somebody shooting it with a rifle or a 9mm or something, where it's made for 22. But I keep them because I figure you just take like a arc welder, right, and just start arcing it all up and melting that big hole back down to nothing.
Yeah, a MIG or a stick weld. You can actually just use like, an oxyacetylene tank, like a white phosphorus rod or something, and just fill it in with welding.
I got an arc welder. I figured I'd just jam this arc in there and melt it up again. It'll work for 22s for a while.
I have some of the cheap ones for 22s for the kids that are the really thin metal, like those other ones I was talking about that I punched the holes through. Those are 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch thick. The ones I have for 22s are like maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. They're like super thin, and so I don't shoot anything on those ones except for a 22. But the other ones I bought were supposed to be all, one was supposed to be Magnum rated, and that was the 1/4 inch thick steel one. And that one literally, it didn't punch a hole through it, but it literally turned it sideways from hitting it off centered. And the other one, it was supposed to, it was rated for, 9, 40, 45. I thought, 5.56 at 200 yards, like that'll probably be okay. And No, it wasn't. It went right through it like butter.
Because there's a lot different speed on a 5.56, and it's a little tiny bullet going real fast instead of something bigger going slower.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about like I thought it was just I thought it was like shooting steel, and I'm like 3/8 inch thick steel, 200 yards, like yeah, like that's no problem, like but no, it's still such a soft steel that it's not. If it was that AR 500 or something like a real shooting steel, it would have handled it no problem, but it the steel they're using on those little shooting spinner things, like any of the ones for handguns, even the ones rated for magnums, is just such a soft steel. Like, yeah, it can't handle any kind of rifle at all. Not even the weak 223. We like to shoot like condiment packets and stuff. Like you can tear open like the corner of a ketchup packet and you twist it up so it's like nice and tight and bulged, and you tear open a little corner, a bunch of flies will come around, and then when you shoot it, it kind of turns into a little, like, you know it literally kind of explodes with a lot more force because all that ketchup's like twisted up in the packet and kind of like under force now.
Like a little
Yeah, like a little claymore of ketchup, right?
That's
And
pretty cool.
so we do that with the air guns in the backyard during the summer. Like we just go right out the back door in the backyard. And because I got dogs and dog shit and all that, there's always flies, back there in the summertime. So there's no shortage of flies. So we go back there and make like target practice out of them and stuff. And then sometimes we'll just put up just a little drop of honey, like right on the target, try and get a fly on there and shoot, and then literally just try and shoot the fly, which is super hard to do, even at, 10 yards or 7 yards, even like up really close. It can be really hard to do to really get a good hit on a fly. So yeah, you just roll up a ketchup or mustard or ranch packet or something that you get. It puts it under pressure inside of it. And then when you shoot it, it literally like explodes out like a claymore or something. Reactive targets like that.
I was shooting at an aluminum can, and normally what we'll do is, like, I don't like using stuff that I can actually still drink. So, yeah, it fizzes up or whatever, but I normally just use empty cans and fill them with water. And then, I'll have a bunch of these old lemonade cans so they don't have a deposit on them, and like a 5-gallon bucket filled with water. And then I just dunk them and set them up. And then when they blow up, I put some new ones up or whatever. And anyways, this last trip, I was drinking some lemonade outside. I didn't bring the bucket of water or anything. So I had the empty can and said, okay, what the heck? I'll just set it up, and kind of just twist it a little bit like into the sand so that it just kind of held up to the wind when it knocked it over. And I was quite surprised at how many shots it took and didn't even flinch. I was shooting at it with my 30-06 and, pull the trigger, didn't move. Dang it, I missed. Okay, well, it's kind of a small target to hit, whatever. Pull the trigger again. Dang it, didn't move again. My buddy's sitting there laughing at me going, oh man, you suck, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, what the heck's going on here? I go up, I look at the can, 2 perfect holes right through the can. I hit it like dead center both times. There were one a little bit to the left, one a little bit to the right, but 2 holes right through the can. So I was really surprised that if it's not filled up with water, how much little reaction you get. We ended up shooting that can for like the rest of the afternoon. Once I just started hitting it with some other stuff, and it'd fall over, and then you try and hit it from the bottom. And honestly, what I like to do is kind of try and hit a little bit low and then send it flying up into the air. So like kind of purposely miss like right near the bottom and then shoot it up into the air.
Let's see here. Lead Life asks, what are our thoughts on AR triggers? Around $100 budget, versus like a more expensive $250 Timney or Geisley. What's your thoughts, Miggy, on AR triggers?
I was gonna say I have my answer, and the $100 is that's a good budget because you get the ALG. I think it's the Advanced Combat Trigger, the ACT. But an ALG trigger costs you about $60. Now you got $40 for something else. Buy a couple boxes of ammo.
Yeah, a bunch of boxes of ammo or something, or a scope mount, or like a sling,
Yeah, no, that's good.
a tourniquet, right? Like something else, like something you really need on your rifle. Yeah,
actually that's a good package deal.
But I guess it depends on what you're doing.
That kind of stuff. But yeah,
rifle.
so the ALG trigger, I find is one of the biggest improvements for the money spent. Like you see, it's so nice. And I agree. See, in my situation, I'm not that good. So spending $200 on a trigger, like that's not going to help me as much as spending $200 on ammo. Like I still need more practice time and whatnot. So the $60 one was just because, what the heck, I'll try it out. And I think, you get whatever, like twice the improvement for a little bit of money. And then the difference between that ALG and a $200 one is maybe, whatever, like another 100% improvement. But then if you start going up even more than that, you're getting like an extra 50%, 20%. It's Dano's favorite law of diminishing returns.
That is very true, though. I found that to be very, very true. Because I'm a big fan of mil-spec triggers, and I love the ALG just like you do. I think it's a great mil-spec trigger.
It just smooths everything out a little bit, It takes that grittiness away for sure.
It does, but I've also found that you can get the same thing out of like a Colt trigger if you just polish it, right? Like but this one just comes good to go where you don't have to do anything, and it's quality, right? You're buying something good. And I like the ALG triggers. I think they're great. I like any mil-spec trigger, honestly. And if you're willing to do the work to it and willing to polish it, and if you have a Dremel and don't mind getting your fingers a little dirty, I mean, you can make a mil-spec trigger using full power, hammer and trigger spring, have a 3.5, 4-pound pole very easily. And you can take up that travel and that grittiness and that stacking completely out of the mil-spec trigger and come out with a really good trigger. Now, are you ever going to get it as short as like a Timney or something? No. Like, it's never, a mil-spec trigger is never going to be like a Timney or something like that. But, I'm a big fan of mil-spec triggers. I think 99% of the time they're going to work for whatever you need them to do, and they're reliable and they're proven. And when you come to a cassette type trigger, that's one reason why Geisleys, I kind of like Geisleys, they're not in cassettes, but when you go to a cassette type trigger, you're usually giving up some spring material there and the spring weights, and and sometimes you're adding more complexity into the system. I'm not a big fan of 2-stage triggers, but
no, he specifically mentioned the something similar, a POF or a CMC. I have not used any of those triggers. I guess those are like the 100, 150 range. How do they compare? Have you used them?
I have both those triggers. I have like 3 CMCs, and I have a Timney, and I have that POF, flat-faced POF. I have a whole bunch of different drop-in triggers, and really, like for a precision-only gun, yeah, right? Like where your life might not matter, where it's not some kind of bug-out gun, maybe it doesn't have that potential.
Right.
I don't know what ammo I'm getting. Am I going to be shooting steel case?
And that's what he specifically mentioned is it's just a range use, just something
And
that's kind of
I don't
nice.
think those triggers have the longevity, the cassette type triggers. I don't think they're as built as well. I don't think they're going to last as long. So any type of for like a plinking range toy, man, I would look at the ALGs, yeah, or the cheaper Geisley G2S, the one that's like 129. I would look to more of a mil spec type trigger or for that, and just polish it yourself, or just change the hammer spring to a JP spring or something like that if you want just even a little bit lighter of a pull.
Yeah, well, the ALG comes, at least mine did, with 2 different springs. So you can use the one spring and it's supposed to be, like the mil spec trigger pull type.
The 5.5 pound.
And then you put the other one on and it's a lot lighter. I don't have a gauge. I have no idea. I just know it felt a little bit lighter. I used the regular spring and it still felt a little bit lighter. And maybe it's just because it was a lot smoother, because they coat that with like a Teflon something coating, Teflon boron or whatever. It's not nickel boron, but the trigger and
Teflon.
hammer are 2 different things. What? I didn't call you a moron. What are you talking about?
Did you call me a boron?
Yes. So you're saying nickel Teflon. Okay, there you go. I knew it was something. And it just makes it a little slipperier. And then they do polish it up. Something, I don't know if people are aware of this or not, but ALG is like a sister company to Geisley. And what I heard back in the day was that, ALG made their triggers, and then the same people who polish the Geisley triggers polish the ALG triggers. Now, maybe they've gotten bigger, they don't do that anymore, but
ALG's his wife's company. It stands for Allison Lynn Geisley, is what ALG stands for. I believe I'm saying that right, like Allison Lynn Geisley. So it's his wife's company, and I think the only reason why they did ALG was for like tax reasons, like to have a second company and like a tax break, something like that. But I think it all came down to like tax reasons from what I read.
Well, I don't know if you read something about it. I suspect it had more to do with you can't, if you're a military contractor with all those whatever credentials, then you can't necessarily as easily sell stuff. And I thought it was that sort of a thing, like so that they could do different roles with the different companies. But I'm not going off anything I read. I'm going off of what I've heard, or I think I overheard, and what I'm trying to recall from those conversations.
Right, but either way, I would say that it's you can almost think of it as just like the ALG is kind of like the budget line of the Geisleys. Like I said, I did hear that the similar processes are done on both of them. Just obviously, the more expensive Geisleys have more stuff going into them, and maybe take a little more time on them or whatever. But for me, I can't see spending that much money on a trigger because I'm not good enough to notice the difference. I just know my original mil spec was very, very gritty, and maybe I could have just polished it myself and had similar results, but it was one of those, it was too good of a deal to pass up type of thing. But I just went ahead and tried it. And good improvement. But I've never been in that mid range, that 100 and something, 150 or like I've never been in that range.
Yeah, I can't. I have a really hard time justifying, the price of a Timney or something, even though it's an absolutely fantastic trigger, and the one Timney I have is just beautiful, right? But I don't trust that trigger with my life, and that trigger is not in a gun I trust with my life. That trigger is in a gun made to do nothing but shoot tiny little groups. But like any gun that even might remotely, I might be trusting my life with, or if it's like you said, just plinking range toy, man, I would just buy a quality mil spec trigger and polish it myself. It's really simple and easy to do. I even have a video on how to do it.
Oh, you 2-bit self-promoter.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You have tons of very good quality AR content on your channel. I recommend anyone listening go watch Dead Horse's channel.
Yeah, I'm also up on YouTube now, UGEtube.
There you go, man. I don't know. I'm waiting for the dust to settle, and then I'll just follow the herd. I don't want to try out 5 different platforms and figure out which one works good.
YouTube and Gunstreamer are using the exact same software, so that's a matter of which one's gonna. I don't think that's going to be a performance thing as much as which one plays the game better and presses the user better and attracts more content creators, I guess.
And YouTube has been having live streams about their stuff, and now that they've opened YouTube to everything, not just firearms. So like if you do aerobic videos or you do health videos or like whatever, you can upload all your content on there. And then not only that, but YouTube now has the whole monetization thing. So every time someone clicks on an ad on your video, you get 11 cents.
Wait, wait, what? 11 cents? That can't last.
That's what it is right now. I'm just saying what it is right now. It's clearly stated in the monetization thing when you monetize your channel on YouTube that every time someone clicks on a monetization link or whatever on your video, you get 11 cents. So that's what it is right now. So
I'm going to go to my monetization tab. Oh, fuck, you're right. It used to be 0.002. Now it's 0.11 from each advertisement click you get from your video. I thought you said
and they have a new live stream. These guys are staying really up to date. So they're doing live streams and they're putting out videos on YouTube, but the YouTube channel themselves. And these guys are sitting there talking about where the platform's going, what they're doing next, stuff like that. So they're keeping us all like really up to date on the evolving of the platform, and no one else is doing that I've seen. And so they're like literally updating us week by week with like an hour podcast just about this, what they're doing. And not only that, these guys have other businesses that are 2A related, and so they have a lot of stuff going behind the scenes.
I don't know. That's in common with every project I'm aware of, though. Every project has either a gun shop, or actually every project. No, not every project. Almost every project has a gun shop, but every project does have a gun-related thing behind it. We're not seeing anybody who's just like, not a part of the gun community trying to come up with this stuff. But what is this?
Some people get rich through hard work and extreme talent. You could also rob a bank. $1,000 US.
Yeah, those are 2 options, I guess.
The test ban. Next to nothing. If they ever found the hammer, Quincy Adams of running Coca-Cola when he died in 2010, his family carried on the case. Specimens are expensive and can reach hundreds of dollars at high-end restaurants. However, be aware not to eat too much of it, because their meat contains an abnormally high concentration of vanadium, which it filters from surrounding seawater and can be harmful to humans if we eat too much of it. Have you ever found anything valuable? Then,
is that on the YouTube you're watching?
Yeah, they've got a
necklace and enough coins to fill 2 shopping bags. He called the archaeologists in after that.
They got a weird thumbnail, so I'm clickbaited into seeing what the fuck the thumbnail is, but they're not showing me.
I recognize that voice. I feel like that's one of those kind of weird list channel things I've watched before on YouTube.
It is. Clover's got a pretty good presence over there. It looks like he's got 30 views in 4 days. 26 days ago, the welcome to YouTube has 1 million views. There's no reason to suspect that there's any, manipulation of anything. That one that I just watched has 8 views, but it's only 30 minutes old. Here's one about backspacing Ford 8.8 swap into a Mopar body. What the fuck? Some kind of car thing? Oh, I see. There's a whole section for cars and vehicles. And then there's a section for music with a bunch of Russian what are these little green tater tot guys, or little yellow tater tot guys that run around with blue pants on? Damn it.
The little minions.
Yeah, it's got like a Russian music video. It's 8 hours old. I don't understand. I guess I understand people's concept of having the things open to all things, but if you just literally open it to all, you're going to get abusers. And either that's going to be like just kind of dumb content, worthless content, and then like abusive and dumb, you know, like stolen content. There's comedy. That's interesting. Jeep owners get owned. Aggressor gets knocked out on camera. Fire in the backyard. Appropriately customizing my Yeti. That sounds interesting.
Is it going to blow it up?
News and politics. No, it looks like they just put some like Molly panels on it and some like straps, so they could probably strap it down to a vehicle. I think. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way Yeti looks. Nonprofits and activism is a whole section. Looks like it's got more views than how to and style. Firearms is a section. What I also like about it is it's going to give a whole new bunch of people. What I hated about YouTube is that people would come to YouTube and go, oh, look, here's YouTube. Oh, here's Hickok, and here's Eric, and here's Tim, and here's Yankee, and here's whoever like you decide to watch. And then they just sit there, grab their popcorn, and fucking start watching on a platform that anybody can participate in, right? So I'm liking this idea that there'll be new superstars of these platforms. So I don't want the platforms to compete and then one is the winner. I want them all to do their thing. So if YouTube wants to be like open to everybody and cars and comedy and Russian minion fucking videos, then right on. And then if I don't know what the other one's doing. Dead Horse, you still in here?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm going to use in GunTube. I haven't used the other one you mentioned, but GunTube are the two that I'm trying to promote.
Here's the other one, GunStreamer. I have accounts set up on both, and I think I like Utah Gun Exchange better just because, let's see what I find out when I go to GunStreamer on my screen sharing.
And when Full 30, when they said that they were going to open it to everyone, I went and signed up an account there, like, I don't know, maybe like a month ago or whatever when they had that. But I haven't heard anything back. I haven't gotten any emails saying like, okay, now that we're ready for you to start streaming.
So here is GunStreamer's About Us page, and it says GunStreamer is a user-generated video sharing site featuring anything related to guns or weapons for informal and entertainment purposes. And then if you click on Contact Us, it says you can email us at this info@ website, or you can use this form. When the form didn't used to be there, so that's new. If you go to Utah, they're both in Utah. So if you go to YouTube and you click on About Us, amazingly, it's the exact same link because it's the exact same software. YouTube, comment guidelines, nudity. We have a strict no nudity. We report crimes to law enforcement. Hateful content, not allowed. When we see it, we'll remove it. Violent content that encourages is not allowed. Harassment, strict enforcement. Spam, not allowed. Threats, YouTube is not to be utilized as a platform. Oh, looks like they actually wrote this. This doesn't look like boilerplate. Copyright, you may upload only your own copyrighted content. If owned by others, you have specific written authorization. Nothing that would compromise a child's safety is allowed. Grossly offensive or content that creates visuals, the sole purpose to shock or disturb may be removed. We do not encourage vulgar language. Users may be 13 or ages of older if in the United States, or must be 13 ages of older. That's everybody does that, I think. Report violations, and they give you a support email, including legal complaints and blah blah blah. YouTube reserves the right to terminate or otherwise limit account access on its sole discretion. And like Dedarsh just said, 11.112 cents per advertisement click. And if you want to advertise, you just flip over to advertise. Throw some money in the thing, in your wallet, I guess. And now you're advertising on YouTube. So let's go look at YouTube, right? Nothing. Not one ad. Nothing but videos. Videos, 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 videos. There's no ads. So you go over to GunStreamer. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Let's go back before we start fucking around. Let's go to the contact us over here now. So broadcast freedom means concierge service. The stage is for you. What the fuck? Broadcast freedom means, what does that word say?
Concierge.
Yeah, service. This stage is for you. Please let us know how you're doing at this email or drop us a line. So they're both using the same contact page, right? So they just wrote something more and used a French word just to piss people off. Fuckers.
Yep.
So anyway,
I just know those are the people at hotels that will get you like tickets to plays or whatever.
Yeah. I haven't contacted them. I think I contacted these people because they didn't even have this form before. They just had this. And then let's remember their About Us page says, here's some information in one sentence. So let's go to the main page of Utah again. Let's look at ads. Nothing. 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 Just videos. Videos, 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 and videos, right? Let's go to GunStreamer. Main page. Stupid ass ad right here. Dumb. And it's right in the middle of everything. I don't like it. This is their banner. Come on. Seriously? I mean, I can tell that whoever you charge you to put this up here used the same colors, but that doesn't. That just looks clutter to me. Anyway, then you get some videos. Videos. They're swell. Videos. And I thought I saw more ads last time I clicked on it. I guess there was just the one ad. Let me refresh and make sure I'm not crazy. Okay, that's not too bad. There was just this one ad then. But I thought I looked at it a minute ago and there was like an ad every 3. Maybe my browser was just glitching. So you got Ebome on there. You guys watch his stuff?
No.
I don't know.
Some of his old stuff.
Bunker is Tack Daddy. Oh, these are just featured channels. I got you. I was like, why are these people just dominate these categories? So this is just literally listing channels at this point. So they're all about featuring channels. Let's go to see all channels on that one, and then can you see all channels on this one? Subscription videos, animation, cars. So this one's going to go the more category route, I guess. And I don't see channels as an option. So we got trending, subscriptions, top videos. And over here we got categories, trending. So they don't want to make this one user centric. This one looks like channels is right up here, top channels. So it looks like channels. They're going to make this one channel centric. This one's going to be video centric or category centric, I guess. So that's one way that they're using the same software, but they're going to change it up a little bit. Oh, look at that GunStreamer, big ass ad. But there's an ad for my shit on eBay, so that's a plus on my book. Although that's just reading my own cookie, so it's not that big a deal. I like this, so let's go over and utilize the fact that they're both using the same software and see if, get rid of this part. Let's see if we can just make that happen. Oh, look at that. It's on, it's on, there's Night Strike in it. That gives me less confidence. So they don't even have their channels thing set up. Is that what they're calling them over here? It's hard to see. So they definitely have their channel thing turned off. But
I saw you could subscribe to people, so.
Oh no, I mean they have channels, but they have the like ability, like if you go to gun channels and you try to now, like back in the day, you could search for members up there. You don't, there's no way to search for members anymore, right? But if you do this, you can search for members. I didn't shut the feature off. I just don't have a link to it anywhere. So that's what I was hoping, that maybe they just had the feature on so I could go look at their channels. But then, like, you know, maybe they don't call them channels over here. Maybe they call them something else. But they do have things here. But it doesn't help you because you can't you don't get out to the system from here. You just get to their thing. So really the only system links you're going to get here are home, latest videos, top videos, trending, and then categories of videos. So there's really no way to even search. You can only search for videos. So I'm going to type in Clover Tack.
I was gonna say, do they have an option for like just showing up your subscriber list or whatnot?
Well, oh, my own subscriber list?
Well, I mean, like, or like mine, if I go make an account over there, like how YouTube is, you know, you have the home page which shows you a bunch of different stuff, or you hit on like subscriptions and then you only see videos by people you're subscribed to.
It brings up what my subscribers have done. So I only subscribe, I guess, to a couple of channels over here yet, Clover and Ghost, who you might know from their gun channels fame. And I don't know if I subscribe. Yes, I've subscribed to Matt, but he hasn't done anything for 13 days over there. So it looks like a couple of guys are putting up stuff. Let's see, 13 videos, 17 views, 30 views, 26 views, 23, 27, 30, 68. Time to repeal the Second Amendment. So it looks like some difference in influence by the title, because I don't think that thumbnail was all that more appealing or less appealing, but it's got 68 views. So it looks like people are reading this. That's interesting. It's possible on a small platform that it was sitting at the top of latest videos for a period of time because other people hadn't been posting. So maybe it just got artificially seen by more people, but I suspect it's more of the topic. So maybe people saw that in the list and went, oh, interesting. Like when you click on videos here, you get a big list of shit. So they suggest a lot. It's frustrating because I wanted to see how many channels. We get an idea over here how many channels are there because it looks like they've got it set up to just display all, right? Quite a few. A lot of these are old YouTubers. So people have been around a while, big YouTubers, big gunner. Nothing too big, so there's nothing. Well, Ghost and Clover, AR15.com. That might be one of the bigger names, if that's in fact them, and it probably is because they're using their copyrighted stupid logo. But I don't see like a maybe Funker would be one of the larger ones here. Schwell. Oh, it looks like they're listed by subscriber number. No, they're not. No, they're not. Are they?
Yeah, they are.
They kind of seem to be. It's just not 100%. But Rock Island is over here with 3 videos. But it looks like whoever this guy is has the most videos or the most subscribers with 223. And Funker is, that's just Tech Daddy and some people with money. So they only got 57 subscribers. Makes it seem like they're clearing the playing field, letting everybody have a shot. There is no Hickok to just sit down and have 1 billion subscribers and everybody else goes, ugh, it's already been done. I'm done.
Well,
I've heard YouTube been described as like a rainforest type scenario where, like at the stage it is now, you have the big guys, which that canopy is blocking any smaller channel from really taking off. But every time there's like either one falls down or just like a small opening in the branches, the light gets through, and then all these little trees start fighting for that sunlight, and then a couple of them get up bigger, and then they start being just as big, and they join the rest of the canopy and whatnot. And YouTube is kind of like that in a way that like your search results, you type in any gun, like blah blah blah, Glock, whatever, you're gonna get the Hickok review. You used to always get what's his face videos. Oh my god, I can't think of his name. Nothing Fancy. You used to get like him, Hickok, and then like a bunch of other people. But like because they're like the top canopy, they're gonna soak up a lot more of the views and then just get bigger. Where this is like a brand new fresh field because it just started, it just existed. And so we're at the stage now where all the ferns and the little trees and stuff all have an equal chance of getting that sunlight. and maybe some of
And
them are
one
going to
thing,
pop up and grow faster than others. But it seems like because it's not as crowded, even if you have one huge channel, that there's still going to be enough to go around that the little ones aren't going to get choked out.
and one thing I want to say about the huge tube, the UGE tube, is that these guys are very active on social media, and they're doing podcasts and stuff, and they're keeping us updated. It's not like perfect, right? Like they know that they need to do more.
I honestly, I do kind of like that they.
Not like the way it is right now isn't the way it's going to be in maybe a week, a month. Like it's like they're evolving. Like they're, like this is all, I guess, new to them, right? And new to us, and they're, they're definitely going to be changing things. And they talk about that in their podcast and on their, like, even on their Instagram and stuff, that, like live streaming, stuff like that, that they're going to be evolving this, so I'm sure, like, if there's not a way to search just for a channel right now on there, like to look at all the channels, I'm sure that's coming. Like, I'm sure that's coming down the pipe. Like, I don't know.
That's not a situation where they haven't figured it out yet. That's just a matter of what they have toggled on. So toggling on channels is just going into their control panel, just like for gun channels. I can put whatever I want up here. It's just a design intent. They want to make it more video centric, where people are here to watch videos as opposed to the jump in and find your channel and watch their videos. I think that shows a little bit, like I say, it's a difference between them, but it shows a little bit difference in their philosophy of it. Like this one, like you say, is about here's about what's going on. So if you want to find something specifically, go for it. If you want to see what's current, go for it. But if you're looking for fan base loyalty type of thing, they don't encourage that part, or they're not setting it up like that. And I'm assuming it's deliberate because they're going to.
I think it's going to bring back people what they want in the first place, what they miss about YouTube, and that's the being able to interact with a lot of these content creators and like receive responses from. Whereas YouTube's gotten so big, dude. Like, good luck trying to get a response on some video that has like 80,000 views or something, right? And like 4,000 comments, because like there's just no way that guy's sitting down there and answering every single comment, and you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So I think that's what's gonna drive these platforms. People are gonna watch it and they're gonna be like, oh man, I'm getting a lot more interaction and stuff with people on these smaller platforms, and I'm gonna start using this.
So this is only 30 seconds long.
Look, we have no idea what's going to happen with YouTube here in the next couple of days. I found an amazing platform called YouTube. YouTube. Utah Gun Exchange has made a video platform for freedom.
They made their own video service called videos.utahgunexchange.com, or they call it UGE2. See, there's like a little video here. You're actually going to see these are some of my videos.
They have a really cool feature. Literally, you put your video URL, you just hit submit, and it ports everything over.
So that's one of the things that was bugging me last night.
URL, and it ports everything over. You see that?
No, it doesn't do that though. So what it does is I guess it depends on what you call port. That's a definition that I don't understand what that guy's trying to use, but you can link your YouTube stuff over to YouTube and to Gunstreamer, and it will put a copy of your YouTube video over here. But then when you go to YouTube and kill the video, it's killed over here. So they're only embedding it, basically. They're only putting it over here, and it's still on YouTube. So that's okay if you're on YouTube and you're good to go there and you don't have to worry about your channel being deleted. But if you're using this as an alternative, a separate place to put down a copy and not just a link to, then you're going to want to download your video on YouTube, upload it over here, and then because of the way it works, you can't change a video upload over here, so you'll have to move your information, your description, your title, your tags and stuff over to YouTube. It's as efficient as it can be for the software that it is, and there's no need for them to change that. So there's nothing to really complain about there. It's just it's not like what they imply, that like what VidMe had, where you'd put your URL from YouTube into VidMe, and VidMe would go get all your information, your description, your title, and your tags, but then it would also go get the video and pull the video off of YouTube and put it down on VidMe. So now you literally had a second copy of your video with no effort. And that's why VidMe got wailed on. We could put our videos over there by the dozens in an hour, and their computers would just have to do what we told them to, and it would just
Thanks, Travis.
So so that was the first one. But the thing that has been bugging me is I went to watch the same video yesterday and only got 15 seconds into the 30-second video, and it hung. It wouldn't watch. So now I'm gonna click on this investors one. I notice you don't get a time estimate when you hover over. I wonder if they'll change that eventually.
Hey guys, Brian Melcher here. Wanted to create a quick video to go along with this press release we're just about to put out, and it has to do with all the investor inquiries. We're incredibly flattered. So many people sending in communications, looking to invest in YouTube. Thank you very much. It's very flattering. Wanted to comment a little bit here. You know, the company is currently privately funded by myself, Brian Melchior, and my business partner, Sam Robinson. We're super excited about this. Sam has commented that, you know, this is really, YouTube is only the second of our planned mega product releases. We are going to bring technology that will revolutionize the shopping world. And that's for real. That is coming. Also, we had some compliments from an industry-leading CEO last week. Told us that, look, this is the first viable competitor to YouTube. And we think that's a fantastic compliment.
Oh, come on.
Compliment. Thank you for that. And we are on a vertical growth trajectory. We do know we're going to have to bring in some capital. We're trying to figure that out. Investors, please direct your communications to support@utahgunexchange.com. Each inbound communication will receive an auto response and a cited ticket number. Pulling together his finance team right now, and we'll go ahead and get those tickets and start getting back to you. Thank you.
Welcome.
A little bit of hiccups there, but that's a little bit of interesting sourness in it already. Where if it's
look, we have no idea what's going to happen.
If it's intentionally being created as a venture into marketing and online sales, then that's a different direction than a communication platform. How long is this one? 1 hour. I wonder where they host this at.
For our audience, one of the things we're going to do today is shake this.
So what is?
Oh my God! Why am I using a touchpad for all of this? My mouse is sitting right here.
A couple things around here.
That's frustrating, man. I really want to watch this. Can I drop the quality down? So if this is full screen, then what is this?
But YouTube is the
See, this part is annoying.
the top.
People aren't going to stand for that. People are bitchy about little tiny issues, you know.
Of the week, and that's what took us up to Browning, and
Yeah.
and so
It stand for what? What part?
The buffering.
Oh, to jump like 20 seconds
a lot
forward?
of down
No. I've been playing with the
communications
20 seconds
from
button, but I'm not
users, from content
pausing this.
creators,
This is pausing because of their
and so we
hosting.
thought
They can't go more than a moment or two without hosting.
Well, let's take a little bit of time right now and address those issues.
So Smeggy's into the spreadsheets.
It's a true statement.
Well, I am like uploading like a 4-hour video like on YouTube right now, so that's why I'm breaking their system.
Well, really though, realistically, that shouldn't touch them. They shouldn't even acknowledge that could be happening times 10. Really, they're trying to. Well, so the one thing is that they said this is the best thing for first of our multi-platforms, and this will be a new way to sell online. That, I'm not all that hyped on that. But
well, they have to have a way to fund it, right? Like they have to.
I'm all about
they're going to have to go with it.
Well, I'm all about capitalism, and I'm glad that they're mentioning that right at the beginning, if that's their intent, since it's their intent. But
think of like how YouTube is advertisers, right? So like imagine if they mixed it in with like Amazon. So like when you review a product or whatever, it has links to that product or whatever, like their links or whatever type thing, and that's how they're making money instead, like kind of a thing.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't care how they do it. I'm just saying we're not limited to those old paradigms like we were in the olden days. So that's all I'm saying is if that's their way of doing it, then that was done either through intent or, they're satisfied with their options or they explored all the options and this is the one they chose. Either way, that's the direction they're going. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying I want communism. I'm just saying that if it is going to be out there with an eye towards sales, then that will eliminate it from being YouTube, because YouTube is not a sales medium. It's not, at least it's so large that no one can dominate it. And it's not going to be like, imagine if Palmetto State built one and was like, oh, we want videos here that are open and free, but it's going to be a bunch of people sucking on Palmetto State's business. How much is a 10 terabyte hard drive?
A 10 terabyte hard drive, man. I think
looks
for
like
mine. I think for mine's a 1 terabyte, and I think I paid $100.
Yeah, it looks like a 10 terabyte hard drive is going to be $329. So let's just say $350, and that's 10 terabytes. So you said you have a 1 terabyte, and you're one person. How much of your 1 terabyte are you using with your videos right now? And I know that's a tough
Like
question.
30 gigs.
You got
like
a lot
30
of
gigs.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a number that you could just pick out of thin air, but $350 for a 10 terabyte hard drive. I don't know. Is there a way to know? Maybe we'd have to do some backwards engineering. I'm going to go ahead and share this to Smeggy. Can I do that off screen? No.
I found something interesting, the way their tags work. You can't have multiple word tags.
Put a no space in there. You probably can.
Okay, well, I'm doing without the space, but just like on YouTube, I'll type something up and everything's a tag until you hit comma. This, every time you hit the space bar, it turns into a tag.
That's how Patreon is too, I think. So like,
I'm uploading some of my old videos right now. So I just made a channel. Everyone go find me on YouTube.
But like van life, you'd have to have van life all one word. I don't know what a case costs. What the fuck can a computer case cost? A server case can't cost that much. All right, $350. How many does that hold? Oh, that holds a bunch. So server case, let's say $300. And then the rest of the crap in there, I don't know, let's say $500. I don't know if that's right or not, but it really won't matter once we start getting into the rest of the computer. So the real computer is gonna, I'll just say $800 for the computer, and then $350 for the server, I guess. And then $350 for every 10 terabytes. And like I say, we'll probably be able to figure out how many terabytes you need in the overall project based on the number of users. But then, like, let's say you want to get video hosting. And what do we call that? A provider? So Vimeo. Oh no, you couldn't run a site on Vimeo. What am I saying? That's for like an individual. So you'd have to get video hosting. I'm gonna go to GoDaddy. That's fast. Well, oh shit. Let me do it on GoDaddy. This is shitty places. Let's see what GoDaddy pays charges. I'm only going here because I'm familiar with their website and I don't have to look around as much. So if we went to business hosting, dedicated servers is more like it. So we're going to have our own computer at their server farm. And we'll go with the whole one. 2 terabytes of storage and 32 gigabytes is $120 a month. Actually, we could probably just get space. Well, let's just fucking get it all done in one package. Who cares? So if we get 32 gigs of RAMs, it's only $120 a month. So how do you switch it to 12 months? Oh, there we go. 12 months. So that's going to cost $2,000. But how do you up the storage? Because that's 2 terabytes of storage. We need a little bit more than that.
Just round up a little bit, like. So just like add a little bit more.
There's nothing more to add here. I'm saying I want to add 2 terabytes, like put more on there. It's not letting me add it as like a thing. So what if I say continue? Shit, I have an account here. I don't want to actually purchase this. 32 gigabyte dedicated server.
It says economy 4 gigabyte. There, can you change it right there?
No, I delete it. This is just the time frame. Yeah, this isn't the way I wanted to do it anyway. Because when we were trying to figure this out, it's you pay per bandwidth. So what the hell were the numbers? It was something like, I'm just gonna go look. So I'm trying to remember.
I have a feeling I'm about to take over the nonprofit activism channel or category.
Yeah.
I'm posting all the old Every Second Matters legislative updates and the ATF bump stock thing, which is a good reminder. Has everyone wrote a public comment to the ATF about the bump stocks? Because that's one of those things that got a lot of play when they first did it. And then people forget it. It's like a 3-month period or whatever. And who knows what's going on now. So I'm just reminding all the listeners and you guys in here, make sure you made a comment about the bump stock. Tell the ATF not to do it if that's what you think. Let's see, do they have a music category on here? They do. A
What do they have?
music category.
Oh yeah.
This is a song I wrote about the Second Amendment. I'm posting that video right now. Although I shouldn't even say I'm posting because I'm doing the import thing for now. Which, like you said, if YouTube dies, then all my stuff goes away, I guess. Shit.
It's hard to know, like I say, because that's one of the gambles in these things is you never know what your users are going to do and how many users you're going to have. But this is suggesting somebody's opinion is 50 gigabytes a month per user. And that's based on like how much a person would suck in from the internet per month if they were watching a lot of streaming. I guess people could, I don't know, depending on, most people don't think about their home internet because they don't have limits on it usually, or often people don't complain about their limits. So, you know, what are those limits when they do complain about them? 20 gigs? So anyway, at 20 gigs per user, you start getting, I don't know, I was going to try to do some numbers here because you can get, your computer ends up costing a ton of money to build the thing. At, you know, 10 terabytes, it sounds like a lot for a single individual, but you know, how many members are over here on this one, the one we can check? These are 3 times 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 30. So it's easily 90, 100 members, and they barely started. So 100 people, I don't know, you can kind of count how many videos. Some of these have 100 videos. A lot of them just have a few. So you start counting up how many hard drives you need just to host videos. If you needed 10, that's up to $3,500 right there. And that's 100 terabytes. How many users is that? 1,000 users? I don't know. Like Night Strike's been having the same debate, right? Trying to figure out how big a machine to buy or build. And then, you know, how many can a computer actually hold? You know, how big do they actually make hard drives? So how many computers do you have to start having? I imagine there's ways to get farms to do stuff, but farms are going to start talking about, you know, computers that cost $5,000 a piece times 10.
Yeah, there's definitely a scalability type issue where, and I've talked about that before with him on, you have to figure out, like, for every, whatever it is, let's say you need a new hard drive every 1,000 users or whatever. Well, every 1,000 users needs to bring in enough money to run a new hard drive. Like that's, and probably plus some to kind of get another one. And I understand it's not just storage, it's also the running bandwidth and all the other stuff. But, you know, if it's a simple way to kind of think about it, it's like as you get bigger, what was I watching? Oh, it was actually The Office when they started the other paper company or whatever. But it's like getting more customers, like they end up losing more money because, like, as of right now, they were hand delivering the stuff or whatever. It's kind of like, okay, you got the one computer, you're good to go for you and your couple of buddies. But as you get more users, the overhead goes way up and you haven't started getting the revenue in yet. And so some companies can go from small to medium. They die in that jump because they're just way more overhead, way more work, way more stuff to do. And, you know, they don't have that return yet. Whoops, I almost put this in firearms. That's not the right one. So. See where we're at. Oh, we're already up to April. Every second matters, April. Better start doing my homework. Every second matters. Makeroff is you know, coming up tomorrow. Damn it. Copy. Paste. May R15. It could be May R15. I don't know. I just said maker off. I personally only like April. Put that under gaming, I guess. It's kind of a game. And one last one. Am I still here? Am I talking to myself?
Yep, you're talking to yourself.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right. Where did Daily Gun Show go? Oh, I'll just close that and open it up over here. Crap. All right. So what else is new? I'll move that over here.
I'm going to be building the cheapest AR-15 ever.
Oh yeah? That sounds fun.
Nope.
How are you going to manage that?
Well, I just finally got in the last pieces for it yesterday, so $252 AR-15 total. Rear sight, everything. Like,
Crap. How do I make a playlist over here?
Yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth as I get ready to take the van over, but Josma said you need to do a list of all your parts. That's one of the things we can do over on the buyer's guide one time. I used to do that when I would take some of the other dudes, like a picture of their gun or whatever, and then just list out all the parts. It might be an interesting exercise when you're not like, because I know you're going to take a break there from buying or purchasing to save up. So during that period, we could like look back at some of your existing builds and kind of itemize them out, maybe make like a PDF for each one. That'd be kind of cool. Dude, do you have enough to make a deck of cards of just your guns?
yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
I definitely could.
All right, I'll be back.
The only problem is that like I have a bunch of just pretty much the same looking 16-inch barrel M4 uppers. So I have a bunch that are just that look basically the same, that aren't customized really. They're just like the one I'm doing, this $252 build is going to look exactly like a lot of the others. It's just a plain Jane, no thrills, just all mil spec type. Because that's the cheapest way to build them. It's not to upgrade them with anything fancy.
Yeah, but still, that is definitely a pretty cheap price.
And I'm probably going to do on the on my show this week, I'm probably going to do a how to lap an upper receiver for anyone who doesn't know. So if anyone wants to learn how to lap their AR upper so they get, correct barrel alignment, and not only that, but less harmonics, kind of helps dampen the harmonics and the wiggle and the barrel whip you can get from an untrued receiver. I'm going to be showing how to do that. And then probably show how to lap a barrel too, because people keep asking me how I lap my barrels. So I just lap them the old-fashioned way with just lead. I don't use anything special. I use basically a cleaning rod that I have a steel end for. That like people don't like to use steel, like the patch holder. It's actually steel, but I use that to hold my lead when I pour my lead. I just use like a piece of t-shirt or something wrapped around the bottom of that. And I just pour lead in the very end of my barrel and then push it out, and I break off any little sharp edges. And then, I lap about going back from the chamber side, I lap like the first 6 inches of the bore and then pull it out and re-pour it. Then I do about the next 6 inches and pour it out, re-pour it. I just keep going down like that. I don't do any of that lapping 200 times crap. I would say I lap my barrels like maybe 60 times, something like that. It's really easy to lap. All you need is like a little propane camp stove type thing, a little steel pot, and some lead. It's really simple. You don't need any special crap to lap a barrel.
All right. Yeah, I have no idea even what you're talking about, to be honest. I don't know what lapping means.
Well, haven't you ever seen a dog drink water?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how they lap it up. It's the same thing. No.
Okay, what does that have to do with guns?
No, it's no, your rifling's like can be like really sharp inside. Basically, this is going to be like the real fast explanation. Your rifling can be real sharp. So when you shoot a rifle and you don't lap that barrel, it takes a while to break in. Then you hit a sweet spot where it's like will become its most accurate it's ever been its whole life. And then it falls off from that sweet spot real fast. Whereas if you lap the barrel to start with, it hits that sweet spot right away, basically, because you're taking all those sharp edges off of the rifling, and you're making it more consistent, and you're smoothing the bore in between the rifling, any machine marks or chatter or anything like that. So it's basically like an aggressive polish almost, and but you're making that bore and you're making it more consistent. And so you hit that sweet spot like basically right away, and then it's supposed to stay in that sweet spot longer before it falls off on accuracy. So that's the down and dirty.
Oh, okay.
And basically I'm just doing lead to accomplish that. There's a new thing called fire lapping. Well, it's not new, but there's fire lapping, and I want to try that. And basically you take a copper bullet, a copper projectile, and you put this lapping compound down on a steel plate. You put that's like really gritty, like a valve lapping compound, and then you take another steel plate on top of the bullet and you roll it back and forth, so you're embedding that gritty sandpaperish type of compound into the bullet. Then you hand load it, and you just load like a real mild charge, right? And then you actually just shoot it. And like Tubbs Precision and some other guys who are like really known to make badass rifles and stuff do that with their rifles. and they swear that it works just as good as the old-fashioned ways as lead lapping. And in some ways, it can work better because right away, right off the bat, you're getting the copper bonded to the steel, and there's a certain like explanation, a more scientific explanation. I can't remember the technical term, but when you're shooting a bullet, that copper actually infuses to the first couple layers of microns into the steel and actually changes the chemical properties of the internal bore of your steel or your chrome lining or whatever stainless steel, whatever you're using it with. And it's actually better and makes it harder, smoother, more consistent too. So they claim the fire lapping can actually be even better than the old-fashioned lead lapping because right away you're getting that issue. And for lead lapping, I've heard some guys say, well, you take your gun out and you shoot it and put 100 rounds through it and get that barrel hot, and then with a pure lead projectile, and then a pure copper projectile or something with a real heavy copper jacket, and then you come back and lap it. But everyone has their own little way about doing that. Everyone's going to tell you something different. You know what I mean? It's all everyone has their own twist on it. Like some people push their lead lap all the way through the bore, like every pass.
Dead horse. I know that person. Subscribe. Man, this UTG, man, it makes it hard to find people. Like I was just trying to find G-webs and stuff, and I type in gun websites. The only thing that comes up is a video from me saying like Patreon perks from gun websites. So I guess I have to know like what videos he's uploaded, and then I can try and find it. Oh, here's Clover Tech. Maybe I can find it through him. No likes videos yet, bastard. Anyway.
But with this $252, rifle, like people are going to see like what like upgrades actually get you to like in as far as performance and like accuracy. So on the show, like other people are going to be able to follow like basically the history of the rifle, like it being built and then it being like upgraded, things like trigger job, free floating it, stuff like that. Maybe a barrel swap to a better barrel. They'll be able to see like this is what kind of, like look at these improvements in accuracy out of this rifle based on how much, the cost was, right? To kind of help people like look like, you can put like a $200 trigger in a shitty rifle, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to turn that shitty gun into a sniper rifle, right? Like, stuff like that. And and then maybe I'll be proved wrong. Maybe I'll put a nice trigger in it, and it'll instantly be like, oh, bam, look, like it's like way better.
Yeah, that is kind of a cool way of doing it. Is start with the absolute bare bones. I mean, that's kind of what I experienced a little bit. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Never mind, because I have different stuff on my gun. but I have upgraded as I went a little bit, and like I do really like that trigger, but I guess everything else I've done's been cosmetic.
Well, I think everyone for their first rifle should probably just buy one, right? Just buy a complete rifle, honestly. And then that way they become familiar with it. Because, like, hardly anyone, like, for their first car builds their fucking first car, right? Like, usually someone buys their first car and then they work on it and they get familiar with it and they learn how to work on it and do all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to, like, rebuild some old car, right? Like,
Yeah,
kind of,
I kind of disagree with you on that. I mean, I assembled my first one. That being said, I just bought the complete upper. That was something I didn't really want to get into, of messing up or whatever. So I'll give you that. But even with
okay, well, that
very little
I can
knowledge and
agree.
whatnot, I was able to put the lower part together, and I was able to pick out the pieces I wanted. And like I said, I have changed a lot of it since then. And then you're right, going through that process. If I were to build another rifle right now, I would just start with some of the things that, I've already replaced. So
And I'll
like
give you that. No, I completely agree. Like buying a complete upper and then building your lower, because you can build a lower with very minimal tools and and stuff like that. And
hell,
you don't
you
have
get
to
one of
use
those the AR-15 punch sets. You're good to go. Gives you everything you need.
Yeah.
And you pop a lower parts kit in there.
And when you buy a complete upper, like 99% of the time it's fired at the factory, tested, and it's headspace. So you don't have to have headspace gauges. You don't got to take it to a gunsmith just to know that you're safe, right? And to have that peace of mind, because it's basically a little mini bomb going off right in front of your face, right? And so when you buy a complete upper, yeah, there's, like I was when I said, buy a first one, that goes for a complete upper or just a complete gun. Instead of building that whole upper yourself and not having the proper tools, a head and headspace gauges and mixing and matching barrels and bolts and stuff like that, and really not having an example to even measure the one you built by, right? And so having a complete upper or a complete gun, you always have an example there of like, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, so if you go to build one and, and then you had a question, man, like, how is this supposed to go? Well, you have an example there that you're probably already very familiar with.
Right. Yeah. So that's I agree with you. But yeah, we kind of restated it a little bit because I don't want to discourage someone from building a lower because that's pretty easy.
Easy, yeah, it's way easy.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm gonna head over there, and it looks like I was about to let people know that we're live over on Gun Channels, but Knives already started a show, so I'm gonna just cut this one and send people over to Knives for the lobby.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, everyone.
All right, thanks guys for jumping in. Dead Ocean said you got a build coming up this week. This is the last one. You walked away.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow night.
Right on. So Maggie, you got a show later on today?
I don't know. Maybe. Susan at 9 o'clock.
Right on. So see everybody later on for the real Daily Gun Show, and thanks for watching. I guess I should button.